What is going on, IB Nation? We are here. It is the post-game show. That's Brian. I'm Vince. We're here to take you through Notre Dame's dominant. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Dominant.
That might even be underselling it a little bit there,
That's
Mr. Daddario.
It may be 58-7 win over the Pittsburgh Panthers and Pat Narduzzi. I had to throw that in because, I don't like him. But a lot to like. Some stuff that obviously, look, there is no such thing as a perfect football game. Those do not exist. I hate to break it to everybody. Those do not exist. And so we are going to talk about some of the things that we didn't like, right? And we always do that. But, first, everybody needs to kind of take a breath. This is a big win as far as they put up 58 points. And they had a shutout until they threw at the sixth corner, for no, guys, this was a dominating win from start to finish. Would we have liked to see more from the offense? Sure.
And we wanted to preface that, man. Look, Vince, you just beat Pitt, right? 58-7, and it could have been 80-7. That's a dominant beatdown victory, right? Like you said, no game is perfect, but we don't need to preface that, man. Because look, I get some people in here aren't happy. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. Notre Dame just beat Pitt 58-7. Like all of you were predicting blowout wins, and they went even beyond it, right? I mean, it was a really impressive victory because you always worry about bye weeks, Vince, because sometimes guys come back bye week, you're playing a not very good team, and you wonder, like, okay, what are they going to really do? And Notre Dame came out, and there were some mistakes early that kind of kept the points down, but that was from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, you just knew Pitt had no chance in this football game, and that's where you want to be. Doubt. That's where a good team needs to be, right? And, this is a great win, man. I mean, it's a great win from wow, you've been a great team. No, Pitt stinks. They're 2-6, right?
We try to tell you that, by the way, on numerous occasions over the week.
Right, and I went 34-6, way past that. You went 37-10.
38-10.
Ryan went 38-10. Ryan went 37-13. Sean went like 35-10. Like we all thought it was going to be a blowout, and they went beyond it. So we'll talk about the good, the bad, but the fact is, guys, it was 58-0. And Notre Dame continues to be an elite defensive football team. And look, if Notre Dame is going to be a New Year's Six team, and if utter chaos continues to happen, like, Kansas beating Oklahoma, things like that, if something's going to happen beyond that, but I'm more focused on New Year's Six. If you're going to get to a New Year's Six bowl, if you're going to tell all the recruits around the country that, hey, we're a program that can compete. If you come here, if you want to let the rest of college football know, like, hey, y'all got lucky against us early. Y'all caught us early, but, man, we're a dominant team now, getting all that momentum. This is the kind of win that you need. Yes. An utter beatdown where you could say, we're gonna hang 70 on you. And my biggest complaint actually was the little exchange there in the late second quarter with Marcus Freeman where he decides to punt on fourth down, and then they try to slow the clock down a little bit late, and that kind of cost him a touchdown. Like, that kind of bothered me, but he made it up to me in the second half they came out in the third quarter going. I mean, it was offense is throwing, defense is blitzing. And then when they got the lead in the fourth quarter, Vince, you and I were talking about this walking out to the car. I love the fact that they put the backups in, but then they let the backups run the offense and just, hey, keep the pedal to the metal. And instead of it being a 31-7 win, a 38-7 win, it's a 58-7 win. So in the last two games, coming out of the loss to Louisville, in the last two games, Notre Dame is outscoring their opponents by an average score of 53-13.5. Right? If you're not happy about that, I'm sorry. Right? Are there things to fix? Always. Unless you win a championship, there's things to fix. But guys, this was a fun win, right? Mm-hmm. This was a good win, and I'm happy about it. And we'll dive into some of those things, man. But Vince, you come out of a game like this and you beat a team down, a Power 5 team down, whose worst loss of the year was a couple 17-point losses. I mean, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good, and I like how this team came out of the bye. That was my big fear, Vince. Was just you come out, you're playing a team that stinks. They're not very good. I just, are you really going to be fired up? Are you really going to, you're really going to want to kind of be there and you dominate? I mean, let me give you a little stat. Pitt had lost 5 games coming into this game. Those 5 losses were by a combined 55 points. Notre Dame just beat them by 51 in one game. Fun game. And like you said, they beat Pat Narduzzi. So that, anytime Notre Dame gives him misery, I feel good about that one from a football standpoint. So,
this one's going to haunt him for a while.
Really good win. And what's even better, Vince? Awesome tailgate beforehand. I got a chance to meet a lot of new people. Saw my guy Brandon there with his girlfriend, which is really cool. Her patience she showed with him was much needed. We all need that, right? Had a chance to meet a lot of folks, man. And that was a blast. So all of you that I got to see again, love seeing you. The people that I got to meet for the first time, that was awesome. We bumped into some people a couple of Notre Dame students walking into the stadium. That was pretty cool. But we kept saying like, hey, I be tuning into the post game show, and I'm like, man, I hope we're in a good mood. Well, you know what? I am. Yeah, I'm in a good mood, and because Notre Dame just beat Pitt by 51, and they've now played 2 rivals in a row, and they've beat those rivals by a combined 51 plus 28, 59, 79 points. Did I do the math there correctly, Vince? 28 plus 51, is that 79? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm happy.
I mean,
the best part is because we're always saying like, I wish, because we have fans that'll give us super chats. I'm like, I wish we could like do this after a 50-point win. Well, you know what, Vince? Boom. We got it right here by my guy, David Carpenter. So I'm going to pull that one up. 5807. Appreciate you. 4 picks, 2 for X, 1 pick 6 for Mickey House, 1 for Mr. Gray. What a fun day to be an Irish fan. Felt good to cheer for old Notre Dame today. Bad day to be a leprechaun with push-ups. Oh, and I think Indy broke USC. So,
that's for sure.
Great things all around, my friend. Yeah. So,
and just to add the cherry on top of the entire experience today, like you and I, we usually go out and we watched like the first drive for each team, out on the balcony with, the ambiance and everything, just being outside, not in the press box, like off to the side. And we sat out there the entire first half because it was, for those that were not present at the game or don't live in Northern Indiana or whatever, it was the perfect day for football, especially in the North, because I'm not going to wax poetic here, but all the trees had changed colors. Like the temperature was fantastic for playing football. Like it was unbelievable. It was all, we stayed out there for the entire first half watching and criticizing, cheering, all of those different things. And it was just a really fun day to watch Notre Dame. It just was. Now, of course, there's stuff to nitpick, but man, it was so much fun to watch this team today.
Vince, the other thing too is you and I have now gone out and watched the beginning of 3 games together. Am I correct? Just 3?
I believe so, yeah.
Clemson last year.
Yes, okay.
USC this year.
Yeah.
And Pitt this year. So I think we're going to have to keep doing that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm not going to be there with you against Clemson this year. So you're going to have to do it for me if they have that opportunity.
You're always outdoors because it's an open air press box.
Oh, so, all right.
You got no choice but to be outside for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have never been in an open air press box. Is there like a roof at least if it rains?
You're like windows? You've got stands over top of you. So because it rained last time when I was there in 15.
Yeah, right.
And it's good. As long as it's not super windy, it'll be good. But yes, anyway, Notre Dame improves to 7-2 Vince. Just a couple quick things just to give you guys some statistics in the game. Notre Dame outscored Pitt 51-7. The Notre Dame defense scored 14 points. The Notre Dame special teams scored 14 points. So 28 for the defense and special teams, 30 for the offense. Notre Dame had 535 yards of offense to just 255 for Pitt. And let's see how much. I think 75 of that for Pitt came against Notre Dame's backup defense. Yes, they had a 3-play, 75-yard drive against Notre Dame's backup defense. Matter of fact, 129 of those 255 yards came against Notre Dame's backup defense. So that was a thorough butt kicking. The backup offense, the Notre Dame number 2 offense came in and I think went on 2 touchdown drives. Right. So Angeli came in and they had the first team offensive line and Estime, but then they had, but he led them down on a score. Then they completely put the 2s in. They go down and score. So special teams did their part except for the stupid missed PAT, which Marcus Freeman was not happy about.
No.
Really good win, man. Really good win. So I'm happy. That was
I know a kicker that makes his PATs, and Marcus Freeman was there to watch him last night. I'm sure that's why he was at the game last night, was to watch my kid kick PATs.
It had nothing to do with watching his son. I'm sure it was all to watch your boy. Look, and we talked about, Vince, some things that Notre Dame had to get better at. Their run defense needed to get better. They held Pitt to 53 yards, 2.8 per carry. The third down had been bad for Notre Dame on both sides of the ball all year. Yeah. The offense went 4 for 8. The defense held Pitt to 1 for 10 on third down. Notre Dame turned it over twice. That's a negative, but they forced 5 turnovers. Notre Dame had not been disruptive. They needed to be more disruptive. They had 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks in the game. So just overall, Vince, very disruptive game, very dominant game, and Notre Dame came out with a big win, So I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it was, no matter how you look at it, this is a big dominant win, top to bottom, starters, backups, however you want to put it. I mean, it was a big win all around. So there's a lot that you can take from this game. Yep. Not only that, but now you've got momentum. I think we answered the question about how this team is going to come out of a bye against an inferior opponent. I mean, that was a question mark. That was a legitimate question mark based on past experiences under this head coach. And they came out ready to play from start to finish. And even those bad interceptions that we'll talk about when we talk about the offense, they had already moved the ball down the field. I mean, it wasn't like it was a 3-and-out type of situation trying to force something on third down, that sort of a thing. They moved the ball on those interception because they had 9 plays for 43 yards, then a pick, 6 plays for 45 yards, then through the pick. So they already had 88 yards of offense, but they had nothing to show for it because of the 2 interceptions. And so, yes, negative outcomes, no doubt about it. But the offense was moving the ball, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the offense. But overall, you made a statement today, regardless of who your opponent was. You still made a statement if you're Notre Dame, because there were teams out there that looked like garbage today and got upset and all of these different things. And Notre Dame took care of business in a dominant fashion. That means something. And if you are a proponent of playing in a New Year's Six game, we all know how you get picked for a New Year's Six game, right? It is not, necessarily who the 4 best teams are like it is for the top 4. It is matchups, it is eyeballs, it is, all of these different things. And Notre Dame just said, hey, don't forget about us. We're here. We're making a noise. And so I like that. I think you do have to make some statements if you want to be considered for a New Year's Six at this point. And Notre Dame did just that. And that's all you can ask. And now they've got momentum going into next week, going on the road to Clemson. So big statement for me. Big statement.
Yeah. I know one thing. I'd much rather be a Notre Dame fan today than an Oklahoma fan. That's for darn sure. So that's part of the deal, man. It's part of the deal.
The fighting Sean Stiers did some good stuff tonight.
Yeah, today with their backup quarterback. So
yeah.
Vince, let's dive into the offense, man. Let's talk about the Notre Dame offense or defense. Excuse me. We're going to talk defense first, because when you play the way that Notre Dame played defense today, you deserve to get talked about more.
Yeah.
Another outstanding performance by this unit, Vince. As we talked about, they held Pitt to 255 yards. What did I say? 129 of that was against the backup defense in the fourth quarter. If I'm looking at these stats correctly, Pitt had 2 drives in the fourth quarter that started in the fourth quarter. One of them ended in the fourth quarter. So they had 2 fourth quarter drives, so they got 92 yards in the fourth quarter alone. So, I'm not good at math, but that's a big chunk of your total yardage you got in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame's backups.
And then the Notre Dame had already 37-yard drive where they punted was also against the backup unit.
Right. They put their backups in
for nickel.
Quarter. Right.
Except for
so
nickel.
Weird. But just an excellent game. I mean, the Notre Dame defensive tackles made an impact today without doing anything. I mean, that's the first thing that stood out to me, Vince. There's 2 things that stood out to me. Number one is the Notre Dame D tackles did almost nothing statistically today. Howard Cross, D-line, just D-line, period. Howard Cross had 2 tackles, 1 hurry, according to Notre Dame. Riley Mills had 1 tackle for loss. Jason Onye had a tackle. I'm looking at Gabriel Rubio to see if I can find him. I don't see any statistics for him in this game. But here's the deal. Do you know why? Because Pitt basically gave up between the tackles. They gave up on doing anything between the tackles before the game even started. Like everything they did running the ball that even had a modicum of success were like those little outside zones, those little quick pitches where they were trying to get the ball outside. A couple times they got leverage. Yeah, and just the defensive line, the defensive tackles, but the defensive line as a whole basically punked Pitt before this game even started, Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Like they didn't try to run. I can't remember them running downhill until like the third quarter, like second, third quarter. I mean, they were, and then the other thing is the quick game, the pass game. They took no shots down the field early. Well, they took one against Jaden Mickey in the second quarter, but just hardly any deep shots until Xavier picks them. I mean, like early in the game, they were quick game and running outside, and Notre Dame was able to kind of play it easily. Yeah,
just a bunch of 3-yard passes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, go for it. Like you can have your 3-yard passes. It's not even going to get you a first down if you're going to do that. And they were doing that repeatedly, right? And so those are wins for the defense if that is what you're going to do. And the reason that they had to do that also was because they were getting so much pressure up front. Some really well-timed blitzes also at the very beginning of this game and in the first
delayed blitzes too, Vince. You picked up on that when you were outside. You're like, dude, they're just doing like slight delays, let the protection, and then flying. Like Marist had that. Was the first play of the game?
It was the first play of the game. It was a delayed blitz by Marist. He allowed the right tackle to kick out to the right, and then the other guys just kind of crashed down, and it was like the parting of the Red Sea, and all of a sudden, whoo, here comes Marist.
Yeah.
And this doesn't go unnoticed, folks. Not only did he get in the backfield, he also made the play, which, we'll in the past, that might not have been the case, right? But he got back there, he made the play, slung the quarterback down, and that was a huge, that was a statement play for your first play of the game, wasn't it? I mean, it just kind of set the tone for the rest of the game.
You guys have no chance.
No chance offensively against this defense. And so, I mean, that was just a lot of fun to watch.
Frankly. I think they got inside the 50 twice in the first 2.5 quarters. One ended at the 49-yard line. The other one was the missed field goal where they actually did some things to take advantage of Notre Dame, what they'd been doing, like blitzing the linebacker, hit a couple overs behind the blitzers, a slant behind the blitzers, and then Notre Dame adjusted and took it away, stalled them out and forced a field goal, which was missed.
Yeah.
So, but just, and the D-line played well when given a chance. They just, for the first really 2 quarters, they didn't get much of a chance. And then a couple times they did try to drop back and throw the ball. The guy had a dude in his face and he was just trying to get rid of the ball. He was throwing it away or, and here's the other thing too. Obviously Notre Dame played without Benjamin Morrison in the game. He didn't play, quad injury. So they decided not to have him go. Hopefully he'll be okay next week. And then Cam Hart left in the middle of the game.
He wanted to go. I want to.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're hearing. He wanted to go, but they're like, we got this. And they did, obviously.
There's just no need to risk it, a quad. Although, again, with all the hammies and quads and all that other kind of stuff, that needs to be addressed. But anyway, defensively, your run defense was outstanding. Like they got a couple plays late. I think their 2 biggest runs came in the second half when Notre Dame was kind of, starting to put some young guys in the game and really did a good job of shutting down, Pitt's just they couldn't get any kind of rhythm, Vince. I mean, if they tried to throw down the field, the guy didn't have any time. And they hit a couple little outside zones and a quick pitch early, and then Notre Dame adjusted and just took that away. And then they start trying to run that speed option, and they're just blowing that up. And it's just, they couldn't do anything.
You took the words right out of my mouth because I was just about to say another thing that I liked about the defense as a whole, since we're kind of doing the whole thing. I really like how they adjusted to some of the things that worked for Pitt early. Not well, but they still worked, getting outside and things like that. And the funny thing is they just kept going back to that pitch. And they kept going back to that speed option. It's like, guys, that's clearly not going to work because they began gang tackling at that point. And Notre Dame, I mean, they have gotten really, really good at just flying to the football and just being around the football in space. And their tackling has gotten markedly better over the last few weeks. I mean, their open field tackling, I think, has just gotten so much better. It's so obvious.
Couple things, Vince, about that. Number one, and we saw this especially today, part of the reason is they're just not letting guys get free in space. They're getting to the ball so quickly now
Yeah.
that guys don't have a chance to make a miss. And the other thing is, and we saw this especially today, Thomas Harper had a couple plays like this. Xavier Watts had a couple plays like this where, they're flying downhill, but when they're engaging, they're under control a little bit more.
Yes.
So they're not just flying by guys. And so they're trying to cut back inside, but Notre Dame's there to tackle. So what I like today, Vince, is Al Golden was aggressive with his linebackers, but it was usually like one linebacker at a time. It was basically run stunts.
Yes.
And so then he was using the other guy to cover and, mixing up where they came from. They were coming A gap weak. They were coming B gap weak, A gap strong. They're coming off the edge. Like there was one time where they blew the whistle dead on a delay game. And I'm thinking they are so lucky that they blew that dead because Notre Dame had two guys coming off the edge that were about to commit a felony against that quarterback. Like it was, and it's just like, and Pitt's not a bad pass pro team. And Notre Dame made they only had 2 sacks, but they had a ton of pressures. 2 of the interceptions were both because of, to me, pressure. The kids just trying to get rid of the football. If not 3 of the interceptions, because it's trying to get rid of the football because somebody was coming.
Right. Well, the Christian Gray interception obviously was a pressure situation.
Oh yeah,
there was a bunch. Yeah,
I'd have to go back and watch the one to Xavier Watts again, but one of the first 2 was a pressure. I think the second one, first one. I think the first one was there. At least there wasn't a pressure, but there was somebody coming quickly and just like I just got to get rid of the ball. So I thought. But the tackling thing to me, Vince, is I feel like Al Golden is being aggressive, but it does seem to, and I could be completely wrong. If I broke it down, I may just like, no, they're doing this. I don't feel like he's doing as much stuff, and he's doing less 6-man pressures and things like that. And I feel like he's just like triggering one guy, which is basically what almost all teams do when you're playing a team that wants to try to run football. And it just sounded, and as he backs off some of that stuff, and he just lets his kids fly to the ball. And Marcus Freeman talked about it, during a bye week or like last week, like, we want guys playing fast. That's part of the reason the tackling is getting better because guys aren't able to turn around and get going. Yeah. I mean, they're catching the ball, and as soon as it's there's a guy making them. They got to try to make miss, and Pitt doesn't have the playmakers to really hurt Notre Dame. But you're like, well, neither did Central Michigan, and you had a bunch of missed tackles then.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they've really continued to improve and just had a really dominant performance today. And again, 255 yards is way more than they really had. I mean, as far as like. In normal minutes, like if both teams would have kept their starters in the game, Pitt doesn't get to 200 yards of offense.
Agreed. And Notre Dame doesn't get to 500. I mean, it's probably true. I mean, their offense hadn't been stopped all game. I mean that's Pitt hadn't really stopped Notre Dame all game, and the only team that kept Notre Dame from scoring 80 days, Notre Dame. I mean, honestly, like I don't remember them coming up with a single actual quote unquote stop today. Really. It was Notre Dame would drive, turn it over, drive, miss a wide open guy on 4th down, which we'll get into. But yeah, I'm actually watching the first interception Xavier had. I just saw it. Howard Cross is right in the guy's face. Yeah. So that was the one where he came over the top, was playing center field, right?
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
The ball was in the air. And I was like, Watts is going to pick it off. Like, I mean, it was so, that's when we were still obviously out on the balcony and we can see the whole field and it's such a great view. But
yeah,
I mean, that ball went in the air and I just saw Xavier Watts and how he was playing that ball. I was like, he's going to pick that off. No problem.
Yep.
So that was beautiful.
So it was good to see that, Vince. I mean, so I liked what I saw schematically and then execution wise. Everybody just kind of did their job today. I don't know that anyone played like brilliantly, although you could argue Xavier Watts came close. But I don't know that anyone was like, oh my gosh, that guy was brilliant. It's just everybody was really good. And that's what it was just that's what was so good about the USC game is yes, Xavier played really well and Riley Mills played really well and JD played really well, but it's like everybody played well.
Yeah.
There wasn't that 8 guys doing their job and 3 not, which had kind of been the issue earlier in the season. I'd be like, I like the call, but this guy didn't do what he needed to do and that guy didn't do what he needed to do. It's like they're just so sound. And a couple times Pitt did some stuff early that I felt was more about showing some wrinkles and trying to get outside of Notre Dame's pressures. And they got a couple like 8-yard gains and a 9-yard gain and a couple quick, but then Notre Dame made quick adjustments. And then like, okay, that's not working anymore. And That was an impressive performance, man. It was a really impressive performance just all around. D-line wise, Vince, as we talked about, I mean, when you can punk a team before the game even starts, you're going to have a day. You're going to have a day.
Yeah, and what I really liked also defensively as a whole was we know the kind of defensive performance that Notre Dame had against USC, and it was, okay, is this an anomaly? You know, this kind of just stifling, fly to the football, punk you, physical defense. Is this a one-off, or is this who this team is becoming? Right? And I think that was a legitimate question mark coming out of the bye. And on the first play, it was like, hey, D'Addario, we're still here. You know, it's like, okay, this the defense is here to play, and they played that way the entire game. And so I'm hoping, and I think it's accurate that that's who this team is becoming on the defensive side of the ball. And it's just, I just love a defense like this, man. I just absolutely love watching it. And it was a lot of fun to watch today. It was a lot of fun to watch.
It was. And when you look at, like, you say that, like, look, Pitt stinks, right? Offensively, we said it all week. Pitt stinks. But Notre Dame did what you're supposed to do when you're a really good defense against a team that stinks. You should dominate them. I mean, that's what they did. And good all-around effort. I thought the linebackers played well today. Even like the Maris sack, like, it was a good play, but it's kind of like he was kind of wide open. Right. And just kind of did his job. But, like, that's good. That's good. That's what I want to see from them. I want to see them just doing their job. And because when they're able to just do their job, they're talented players, and you see it. You see the athleticism. Like, the best play that Marist had is, like, when that quarterback, like, that the sack was fine, but, like, that was a play call. You came wide open. Like, if you don't make a sack there, you shouldn't be playing. But there was the play in the second half. I think it was a second down. Guy bootlegs, and Marist shows like he's coming, but then reads the quarterback like he wants to throw, and then kind of slows up and then jumps up and breaks up the pass. Like, that's more instinctive than it is, okay, you know, you went out and made this great, you know, athletic play or whatever the case may be. It was a really instinctive play, and it was a disciplined play. It's like, don't overcommit to the quarterback, and then he throws it behind you. Don't stay back and then, you know, let him run for an easy first down. Like, the guy was kind of in no man's land, and he made it hard on him. And so I was pleased by what I saw there. Very pleased with what I saw there. So that was a good performance.
For sure.
Good performance. Yeah. But I want to talk about this, Vince.
Yeah, what you got?
The Notre Dame secondary has really just been lights out the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they have.
And here's the wild thing. I said this to you during the game, and I just said it to a buddy on my way home. Notre Dame has the best cornerback tandem in college football. I believe that. I've been saying it for a while. But by the middle of the second quarter, neither one of them were playing. And nothing changed.
Yeah,
nothing was different.
Nothing.
And the only quote unquote bad play from the secondary was Jaden Mickey missing a chance for a pick six. Like, him letting a pick six that he read perfectly go right through his hands. Then he made another bad play. They hit a double move on him that would have gone for a touchdown if
it was a better pass. Yeah,
but what does Jaden do? He bounces back.
Yeah.
Breaks a couple balls, and then finally gets the pick six.
Sure.
Right?
Got rewarded finally. Yeah.
And that was off of a pressure. Again, it was off of a pressure. But, you know, so you're watching Christian Gray go out there, and you're like, he looks fine. He doesn't look like a freshman, like being thrown into a or an injury situation.
Honestly, there was one point, Brian, and to capitalize on what you were just talking about him not looking like a freshman. There were times where he was putting guys in position. He turned around to the secondary, and he was relaying calls from the sideline to other guys in the secondary, and he was kind of pointing where they needed to be. Like, that's not a freshman, man. Like, that, he is obviously mentally in a place where he's not a freshman anymore. And I think that's awesome, man. They had a lot of faith in him because they were basically splitting reps with him and Seven. Why is his name escaping me? Help me out here, Brian.
Jaden Mickey.
Thank you. Him and Mickey were basically splitting reps the entire game when they knew that Benjamin Morrison was going to be out. So a lot of faith in two young guys right there to have them splitting reps.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by the way, a lot of faith in Cam Hart to be playing both the field and the boundary, depending on which guy was in. So it was very interesting, and it just shows how deep the secondary is, man, from top to bottom. It's like, okay, well, they're going to roll somebody else out there, and they're going to be just fine. And it was, man, if anybody's paying attention nationally, they need to be paying attention to especially the corners, but the secondary as a whole. I mean, Xavier Watts, 2 games in a row. Holy cow. Like,
well, you want to hear something wild, Vince. So here's a little something for you. What was the stat I gave about last year? Notre Dame's secondary safety position only had 8 passes defense all year.
Yeah,
INTs
terrible.
plus breakups. Xavier Watts through 9 games has 6 picks. Just
right.
Picks, not even passes defense. Picks. So Vince, I mean, I'll let you talk about this. I got to step out for a second here. I'll let you talk about it, but dude, he has turned into an absolute dude for this defense, and that has changed it has completely changed the complexion of this defense, because it was solid corner safety play with elite corner play. Now you're getting elite safety play at that spot, solid safety play at the other. Just do your job, and then now your corners and Thomas Harper has bounced back really well from a couple shaky games, and he's the last 2 games played extremely well the last 2 games as well. So this secondary as a whole starting to become really elite, and not just because of the corners. Like, they looked like an elite secondary today when Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart were on the sidelines.
And I will say, thank goodness that I saw number 5 on the sideline healthy, at least appearing to be healthy, later on in the game, because we all saw him go up the tunnel. I don't know if they showed it on TV or not, but he went into the locker room, and Brian and I were both like, oh boy, this isn't good. And it looked like his arm was kind of hanging down by his side, and it was like, oh geez, he's having the best season of his life. He's playing. I mean, he's the best corner on Notre Dame's roster this season, at least the way he's playing. And now he's walking into the locker room with look like a dead arm, and it was like, oh boy. So I was very happy to see him. He was celebrating on one of the plays. Later on, as somebody scored a touchdown, you could see him celebrating, and he had his helmet in his hand. So it was like, okay, Cam Hart's going to be fine, but there's no sense in putting him back in the game because of the way that things were going, right? And so, that was very, very, very good to see. But the play of Xavier Watts, and I think that's what Brian wanted me to talk about while he was gone, but the play of Xavier Watts, man, you want to talk about taking a game to the next level. He has played so well, and it's just starting. He's just scratching the surface now in the last 2 games with what he's able to do. I think he leads the country right now in interceptions. I mean, the way he's playing center field out there, he just read the quarterback's eyes on that first interception, went over, played over the top. I mean, broke on the ball perfectly. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And then, of course, the second interception, I mean, I don't think he's ever going to have an easier interception a day in his life. I mean, the ball was thrown right to him, and
he was there.
Take it. But he was there. Yes,
Vince, you got to be where you're supposed to be to make that play.
Yeah,
I have some good news. I just got word to. I just talked to somebody, and so Cam Hart had a bruise off his elbow. He could have gone back in.
Yeah,
but it was a blowout. They didn't need him.
That's what I figured.
Because it wasn't a shoulder. It was he hurt his elbow on that play, and it was a bruise. So I was told bone contusion. So that's if that holds up to be true, that's huge.
Yeah,
so that was my big concern.
It was later on in the game. I said this while you were gone. They showed him celebrating with somebody, and he had his helmet in his hand. Like, if you're injured, they take your helmet away. Like, you're not going back in. He had his helmet in his hand. He was on the sideline. I was like, okay. Obviously, Cam Hart is fine, but they're not putting him back in because why?
And if he's got a busted up shoulder, he's not there smacking dudes on the helmet after celebrating.
Exactly.
Either.
Yes, 100% agree.
Right.
He would have been in the locker room. He's not coming back out. Right. Certainly not dressed with a helmet in his hand. And
shoulder pads on. If he had a shoulder injury, he doesn't have his shoulder pads on in the second half. No,
absolutely.
So that was a great sign. Very happy to hear that. Very, very happy to hear that. So,
right.
But yeah, Vince, just to your point about Xavier though, but like you've got to be in the right spot to make those plays. Sometimes picks like that happen, but you've got to be in the right spot.
Well, and the same thing with Jaden Mickey, right? I mean, it was funny. You said you leaned over to me when we watched that play happen. The ball gets thrown right to him. He's in the right place. He was obviously ball hawking the entire game. He just hadn't made a play on it yet. Makes this play, scores the touchdown, and we have like a separate announcer in the press box. And the announcer in the press box was like, okay, the pass was intended for so-and-so. And you look right at me here like, are they just making this up? Because there was nobody with a white jersey on anywhere near that ball. And I thought that was hilarious because there was nobody around. It was great.
I wasn't taking a shot at the guy. I was just kind of having some fun. Like the quarterback didn't even know who the intended target was. Like he just was trying to get rid of the football. He wasn't know who the heck he was throwing to.
Exactly. I mean, they got to put something down in the stat sheet.
Right.
The stat sheet.
I mean,
it's got to be intended.
He made the right thing. I just was kind of. I was
funny.
Kind of being a little bit silly, but yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But yeah, it was the Notre Dame safety position, man. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's becoming something. And it's like what we said during the summer and offseason, Vince, was there's only one guy back there that has a chance to be a star player. And that's Xavier Watts, and they need him to become that guy. And he's becoming that guy, and he's had some moments. I mean, it's not like he hasn't had any moments before. He's had some moments, but now it's like becoming more of a, this is just kind of who he is, because it wasn't just the 2 picks, right? Like you could take away the 2 picks from today and just watch what he did in the run game and playing the alleys and doing those kind of things and still say had a pretty good day, pretty good game. I mean, he did some really nice things in this game. I mean, like one of the interceptions or one of the misses, like, he jumps an in route and you're just watching him play and you're just like, he's playing at a really high level and he's playing with incredible confidence.
Yes.
And that's such an important thing. This second, Thomas Harper's playing with a great deal of confidence. And you're really seeing that. You're starting to see it. This is what this secondary can be, but it really starts outside. It does. And you saw Cam Hart when he was in the game was playing boundary and field. Yes, exactly. Because so when Mickey was in the game, they had Mickey at the field and because he's Cam's backup, and then Cam went to the boundary. And then when they had Christian Gray in the game, they had Cam to the field because Christian Gray is Benjamin Morrison's backup in the boundary. And that was good. But this secondary, Vince, it's the best second. I'm sorry, with all due respect, right now they're the best secondary in college football. They are, and you can say what you're about to say about Cam.
I was just gonna say they're allowing Cam Hart to put together some pretty impressive film. For the next level, playing both sides.
And I was ticked about the completion they got him on that over route too, because it was the guy used the referee to pick him. It's just like,
I mean, totally legal play. It just sucks that it was it just he had to make it. Cam Hart had to make a decision: go under the ref and be way behind, or go over the ref and give up the underside, and that's why he was able to make that complete. I mean, either way, the guy's going to be open because of that. I mean, it's a smart play, I guess, but it just stinks because it made it look like Cam Hart wasn't where he was supposed to be or whatever.
Right. I mean, you're going to give up something.
Not the case. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, so just overall, Vince, defensive performance, man, I was happy about it. There's not a lot else to say. It's just every part of the team played great. The D-line played well. Yeah. They were sound. They were, fundamentally sound. I mean, that's the thing, is like you can dominate a team and still be like, yeah, there were some, like, was it the Tennessee State game? I think it was, Vince, where we're like, yeah, they dominated, but they were they were just better than that team. They weren't like great. Central Michigan, they kept the points down. It was like they didn't play well. You can dominate an inferior opponent and you can still say, man, they were sloppy. They're just way better than that other team. Today you could see both. They're a way better coach team than Pitt, and not scheme wise, right? That's a given because Pitt's offensive scheme is just bleh. Cignetti's just, his offense is a BC were that way. If you take Zay Flowers off of those BC teams, they're even worse.
Right.
And then his Pitt offenses have been kind of that way, right? But they're also just more talented. But you're more sound, you're more disciplined, you're more physical. Right. And that's what I like to see. Now they just got to keep building on it because, as you said, they don't play very good offenses down the stretch. And this,
right,
This was the worst of them. All right, as bad as the next three are offensively, you just played the worst of them, and yeah.
I mean, it's again, as long as the defense can keep just doing this, just keep dominating, keep being physical, keep flying to the football. Al Golden keeping it simple. Let his guys play. Let your guys do what they do. He had some great calls. Like I said, the delayed blitzes. Not only were they good calls, but remember when Golden first took over, and even in the past, Notre Dame just wasn't really very good at delayed blitzing. They just didn't execute it very well, to be honest with you.
They'd usually be too late,
yes,
or they would show it too early.
Right. They just weren't
good
at it.
But it was really good. But it also shows that you can't delay blitz if you don't have good athletes. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And, and the other thing too I liked, Vince, is a couple of the mistakes that were made today. You saw them adjust. You either saw them adjust schematically, or you saw players bounce back. Jaden Mickey, for example, had those two bad plays. I think they were both on the same drive, I believe. The missed interception, and then he gets beat on a double move. And if the quarterback throws a better ball, it's a touchdown. I mean, it just would have been. But then you see him come back. It doesn't phase him. He doesn't put his head down. He just keeps ball. And they went back to that same play, and he jumped it again. And this time he got his hands on it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if you're going to jump that and try to pick it, you just got to make sure you get your hands on it. Don't let him catch it.
Yeah, at least knock it down.
But he did it the next time. The next time he did that, he doesn't pick it off, but he breaks it up. And then the interception to pick six was a different route. They were running an option route. Jaden read the quarterback, and the guy just threw wide. He was expecting the tight end. The guy that ran the route actually did the right thing. He saw Jaden Mickey squeezing, and so he stopped in that window. The quarterback just had zero time to see Jaden Mickey because he was getting pressured.
Yes.
And
the line and the front seven giving pressure and allowing the secondary to cook and make plays. I mean, one affects the other, obviously, right? I know that's common sense, but it's so true. So maybe the defensive line didn't get a bunch of stats, right? They're going to get their stats on like Pro Football Focus when it comes to like hurries and, all of those different things, because they were in the backfield for Pitt all night long and forced those bad throws. So whether they were either knockdowns or interceptions or whatever, that front seven was allowing the secondary to make plays all night long. And they did. That's the other thing. They actually made those plays when given the opportunity. So it's just the symmetry of this defense and the way that they're playing complementary to each other and dominating.
I want to give Al Golden a little bit of props too, because Al Golden's a guy that loves to play man coverage, and Jaden Mickey's a good, solid man player, but he's more of a zone guy. If you go back and watch that pick six, that was zone. So they're showing man. I'm actually watching it now, and I thought this is what we saw live, but I wanted to be sure. But it's 3rd and 4. Notre Dame tends to be a very heavy, like, man, bringing pressure, that kind of thing. On that particular play, number one, Xavier Watts is on the sidelines on that particular play. He wasn't even in that series. They were rotating in. But they're showing blitz. They're showing 2 off the edge. They end up zone dropping weak. They end up bringing 5, but they brought 2 backers off the edge, or 2 guys off the edge. They dropped Jordan Patelho into coverage, and they slid their coverage over. So they actually ended up playing like cover 2. The safety to that side, DJ Brown, moves over to trips. He's actually playing over the top. And Ramon Henderson comes down, takes the option route, and Jaden Mickey's just sitting there. And I'm thinking, because like at first I'm like, okay, did Jaden read that? Like, he better hope he got that right. Because at first I didn't know if they were in zone. And then it's like Jaden kind of read it, but if he didn't read it right, if the quarterback read it properly, maybe he throws it behind him. But I just watched DJ Brown flies right over top and takes away the go route. So it was clearly zone. And that's a good call too, because now you're playing to Jaden's strength. If he's in the game, play to his strengths.
Yeah.
So props to Al Golden for doing that. I
Absolutely.
thought that was good. And so I wanted to see that again. And that's what it was. So
I do feel like, again, to piggyback off what you said, I do feel like, especially after the first few games of the season, I feel like Al Golden really knows his defenders.
Guys. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He knows his guys. Yeah. And that wasn't the case last year. He didn't really know the strengths and the weaknesses of his guys yet. He got here late, all of those different things. And people will say, well, he had, 6 months or whatever. But like, you need time to get to know your guys. So if you're recruiting them, obviously you can get to know them that way. But when you're new, when you're in fresh, it takes some time. It's very clear And a perfect example is what you just said about Jaden Mickey and the fact that they were running zone there. He's starting to know his guys, know what they're good at, know what they're not good at, and playing to those strengths and not playing against those weaknesses, right? And it shows. And that's why these guys are able to play fast, as fast as they are, because they're in their wheelhouse of ability. And again, it's just fun to watch this defense.
Yeah,
bottom line,
it
it's
is.
just fun.
It is. I think the final thing for me is he is clearly coming up with good game plans. It's not like he's just lining up, letting him just go play ball. But it does appear that he's scaled some things back. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to coach him up, make some great calls, but I'm going to let these kids play. It's going to be about them as much as it is about me. And that's the balance you got to strike, man. It's the balance you got to strike. So I can watch this game, and if I'm an NFL scout or if I'm a team looking for a guy or I'm just evaluating the defense, I'm going to say, look, they called some good. He dialed up some stuff today. But I'm also watching and saying, but he's not getting too crazy and getting too cute like the Central Michigan game and some of those other games. You're like, dude, you're just trying to show everyone how smart you are. He's showing now how smart he is, but also showing that he trusts his players. And that's the sweet spot, man. And it is a thing of beauty. It really is a thing of beauty. So before we go on to offense, Vince, we got some game balls. So what is who gets your game ball for today? And to me, what are the two biggest takeaways you had for the defense from the defensive performance today?
So I'm going to go, and I know this is crazy, right? I'm going to go game ball to Xavier Watts because, and by the way, the music that they played after his first pick, can you?
Oh, that was sweet.
You're the music guy.
So so they got a DJ at the thing now, right? Like that DJ Dash or whatever. But after his first pick, they immediately started playing DMX's X Gonna Give It to You. And I'm like, oh, that's freaking sweet. Because Xavier Watts is known as X, his teammates. I was like, oh, that's sweet. I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up for people that weren't at the stadium and probably obviously didn't hear that. So, but no.
Yeah, that was perfect timing. Yeah.
It was. And they are getting inventive with the music, by the way.
Yeah.
Playing Push It for when the team.
When they kick it. He did.
He pushed it. He pushed it.
Yeah. I also want to say that Christian Gray is being a very selfish teammate because he stole a second interception from Jaden Mickey. If Christian doesn't pick that off, Jaden does. He'd undercut the route. Oh yeah, I'm watching it now, Vince.
When he jumped up and got it. Is that
I'm being sarcastic about Christian being a selfish teammate. But if he doesn't pick it off, Jaden Mickey does. Jaden Mickey was flying over from the other side of the field. He was going to undercut that and pick it off.
Gotcha.
And so that ball was getting picked off no matter. Somebody was picking that pass off.
No doubt. The kid was trying to make a play, but man, you can't do that against those guys.
Yep.
It's just not going to work.
So last two, Vince. Or two story. What'd you say your two storylines were?
I already my biggest takeaway from this entire defensive performance, and I kind of already mentioned it, is that I think this is who this defense is. Like USC was not a one-off. And coming off of the bye, it was like, okay, are they going to be playing with energy? Are they going to come out fired up? Are they going to continue to just dominate defensively? And after play number one, they get a sack on a delayed blitz, and it's like, yep, that's who we thought they were. And they played that way throughout the entire game. And so my biggest takeaway from this entire thing is this is who I think they are right now. Again,
they had a bad second half against Louisville. That's it.
Yep. So I think this is who this defense is. That's my biggest takeaway from this whole thing.
You got any others? I mean, I think that works for me, Vince. I mean, this is just a really good defense. They played a bad offense and did exactly what you're supposed to do to a bad offense. They dominated it. I mean, Pitt there was no that one drive that barely got into field goal range. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it.
I mean,
against starters.
Right. I mean, you mentioned it, right? When you talk about where Pitt gave up the ball, they were only in Notre Dame territory once in the second quarter for the missed field goal, and then twice, and those were against the backups. They ended up on the Notre Dame 38, and they punted, and then they scored the touchdown again against backups. So they only even entered.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here on the drive sheet, Vince. The first 10 drives.
Notre Dame's territory one time against the starting D.
Once.
Yeah. So, just saying.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's a good day. It's a good day at work.
Yeah.
Good day at work.
So let's talk about the Notre Dame offense. Let's jump over to the other side of the ball. Again, overall, look, Notre Dame had over 500 yards of offense, 535 yards of offense, 380 through the air, 155 on the ground. Total, what did the offense end up put up? 30 points? Does that sound right? When it was all said and done,
they
30
had
points.
2 special teams touchdowns.
Right.
No, actually, the offense scored 37 points. Hold on. They had 2 special teams touchdowns and then 1 defensive touchdown, right?
Well, no, they had 2 defensive and 1.
Which one am I forgetting? I know they had the Mickey touchdown. Who was the second defensive touchdown? Hold on, let me go to the scoring.
Maybe there wasn't.
So
maybe there wasn't.
Notre Dame. Tyree had a punt return for a touchdown.
Correct.
Mickey. Yeah, so you had Tyree punt return, Estime offense, field goal offense, Price rush, Mickey interception. You had Ramon Henderson recovered to fumble. Then it was Estime.
Yeah, so 2-1, so 21.
So you actually scored
37.
Yeah. You scored 38 because the missed PAT was after on the special. So the special teams and defense scored 20 points because the extra point was missed after the Ramon Henderson recovered fumble.
So 38 offensive points.
So 38 offensive points.
Okay.
And and you move the ball up and down the field. I mean, they had 535 yards and you'd mentioned that the part of that goes to the backups, Vince, because the backups went on drives of 84 and 63.
Well, actually, it was the last 3 drives for the offense.
But the reason I don't say backups for them because you still had the other starters in. You just put your quarterback out. You still had Joe Alt was still in the game. Estime was still in the game. Like
it was the whole offensive line. It was just Angeli that was leading that drive, but it was the all first team offense.
So you could count that as 2s, but I mean that's the backups, and that was a 45-yard drive. But you put your backup. So I think it's more impressive to talk about what Steve did with the backups around him. Right. You know, I mean, the way that this game went, it shouldn't have mattered who they put at quarterback when they had the rest of the starters in the game. You put him in, and again, kudos, you let him run the offense, and then they put together so be 147 yards. You know, but again, as you mentioned, Vince, like you got into the red zone. You got into Pitt territory in all but one first half drive. Actually, no, in all of them, because the one punt was you punted from. That's the one I was pissed about. It was the one that they punted from the 46 on 4th and 3.
Yeah,
that's the only drive that you punted. That whole first half, you had an interception, turnover on downs with a guy open, touchdown, punt, field goal, touchdown. Punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Yeah, they ended every single drive they had. They ended in Pitt territory, except for when they downed it. That's it. Every single drive.
Yeah, they took a knee at the end. Correct. So now that's the good and the bad. The good is we said all week Pitt stinks as a team. This is still a pretty salty defense, right? This is still a quality defense, and you move the ball up and down the field. Some things I liked from the game. I thought the game plan was good. This is where you give the offensive staff a lot of credit. Is I thought the game plan was good. Pitt's an aggressive defense. We said they're going to beat the box. We said they've got to do some things to take pressure off the run game. That's exactly what they did, Vince. Is like, so early on, Pitt was playing condensed. They were throwing quick swings and quick slides and quick play action bootleg slides, things to suck Pitt inside and then leverage outside with their blocking. I thought the receivers blocked pretty well for the most part. The only time they ran a swing on the second series, which I didn't love. And there just wasn't enough guys to block. The leverage was they had just a guy unblocked. You know what I mean? So, you know, we'll kind of see how this kind of plays out. But I just thought overall game plan was sound. They got outside. They mixed up the run game. They were doing more quick hitting run game. When the O-line blocked well, Audric was hitting. I thought Audric played really well today. I didn't think the offensive line was overly consistent. I have to get into the film. I don't want to get too much into it because I just need to see the film. I just thought there was some misopportunities there.
It's a lot of stalemates.
It
felt like
live. Not really driving, but the couple times they did open up holes, Audric ripped through it. You had the 33-yard run, the 15-yard touchdown. They got Chris Tyree involved early. I mean, he had caught an RPO pass on the first series. He ran a reverse. It didn't go for much, but like it had Pitt thinking.
Yes,
and they were like one block away. Yeah. They put too many guys in the boundary and had too many blockers in the boundary. I thought that's why that play didn't work. But like you said, Vince, you said it. They did a lot of eye candy with Tyree. And so you want to know why I've been advocating for this? You guys want to know why I've been advocating for doing more of this with Chris Tyree? Don't watch a single play that Chris Tyree made all game. Watch the 15-yard touchdown run by Audric Estime. They ran him on a jet sweep, and as Audric Estime's cutting the ball back, two of the linebackers are still looking at Chris Tyree.
Right.
You're not doing that if it's Jaden Thomas or Rico Flores or Jaden Greathouse or Tobias Merriweather or anybody else. You're doing that for two guys, Jeremiah Love and Chris Tyree, especially Chris Tyree because he's the more proven commodity. And this is exactly why you do that stuff. And then, of course, he makes that great catch on the post route. Then, we didn't see him a lot in the second half, which was a little frustrating. But, the fact is like once you get him involved early, then you can use him for a decoy for other things the rest of the game.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what happened in this game, Vince. So now all of a sudden those jet motions, you got to worry about when it's Chris Tyree going a jet motion because you got to worry that he might get the ball. And I thought that was one of the things I liked. I liked quite a bit. I thought that was a good part of the game plan. And I still didn't see any shots outside. Just guys, you got to be willing to throw the ball outside. I didn't see a lot of shots that were designed to get the ball to the outside guys on the outside. You just didn't see it. And when the outside guys were making catches, they were doing it from the inside. I mean, Jaden Thomas's corner route was in a Twins where he was the slot on the corner. Tobias's big post route, which if Sam leads them, we'll get into Sam here in a minute. If Sam leads them, that's a touchdown. He'd smoke that dude. So one of the things I wanted to see that I talked about before the game, Vince, was I want to see Notre Dame do things to get their receivers matched up against the Pitt safeties. They did a lot of that today.
Yes, they did.
It worked. The first time it didn't work, but that we'll get to that. But so they did a lot of that. They just kept Pitt just couldn't tee off.
Right.
And that's what I like. They just couldn't tee off. And that allowed them to gash them because they didn't have any huge plays. Like the longest run was 33 yards. You had a 47-yard gain on the pass game, you had a 60-yard pass play, but that was on a drag. Most of that came after the catch. You had the 47-yarder, you had the 42-yarder. It's like 22, 33, 60. So it's not like you were hitting like the Central Michigan game where you hit 275-plus yard touchdowns in the first quarter. It wasn't like, or first half. It wasn't like that. It was just 8 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards. Oh, and then the other one was they ran that 3rd and 12 in the first half, and they're bringing Mitchell Evans on a crossing route. Do you know why he was wide open and uncovered on that? Because you had 3 guys running on the vertical seam with Chris Tyree because now they were freaked out about Chris Tyree.
Yep.
You had a linebacker, safety, and another flat guy that were all running with Chris Tyree on a seam route.
And that's
so they had Chris Tyree pretty much covered, but now you've got Mitchell Evans coming wide open on the 3rd and 12.
Nobody else.
Right? And with all due respect, I love Rico Flores, but no, he's not scaring people. Jaden Greathouse isn't scaring teams like that. Jordan Faison's not scaring people like that. Jaden Thomas doesn't scare people like that. Tyree does.
Mm-hmm. And
today was an example of when you get him enough touches, he can do things to scare the other team. And that was a clear part of the game plan today. And I liked it, at least in the first half. And I really liked that.
Well, they didn't need to in the second half. I mean, I still would have liked him to get, to continue to do some things in the second half, but you didn't need to, right? And so what I liked a lot about the first half of the offensive play calling and the offensive game plan was the fact that there was a lot of eye candy. There was a lot of movement. There was a lot of motion. There was some shifts. I mean, they were making a not so great Pitt defense really think about what in the world is happening with this offense. And then they kept it simple with what they were trying to do. And so I really liked it because they had Pitt all over the place. They had Pitt all over the place with their eye discipline.
Pitt wants to, we talked about it, Vince. You guys talked about it. We talked about it. Pitt wants to be a downhill, fly to the ball, aggressive team. And they couldn't be today.
They couldn't do it because they had to respect the different things that Notre Dame was doing offensively. And so it wasn't just your cookie cutter, dry offensive game plan that we've seen in the past at times. It just wasn't. And when executed, I thought it was good. I did. I thought it was good. And look, we are nitpicking a 500+ yard offensive attack.
Well, there's
because there's reason to.
There's,
and we're going to talk about it.
Nitpicking. I mean, there's things I did not like. I mean, with the play of the quarterback, but just some of the other stuff. And I still think you've got to be able to take some shots.
For sure.
You've got to be able to take some shots outside. You've got to be willing to take some shots outside,
especially against a better defense that you're going to face next week.
Right. Offensive line of guys, again, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. That'll be what Vince and I talk about tomorrow night upon further review. But you also saw too, man, like Notre Dame's got some good running backs. I didn't think overall they ran the ball as well as I wanted them to. But as we've talked about, Pitt's got a pretty decent run defense. We talked about that coming into the game. I think they were ranked in the top 25 nationally in fewest yards allowed per play. They were giving up 3.15 yards per play. The most they'd allowed all year in a game was 5.14. And if you take the two kneels out of the equation, Notre Dame was at 5.10 in the game. Okay. And so, that's pretty without any like huge long runs, but you saw Jadarian Price. Thank you. You saw Jadarian Price make my mom. I forgot my notepads and stuff. So that's why I was calling my mom. Like, hey, could you bring that down, please? Because I wanted to go through my notes. Everybody's thinking I'm getting like intel. Like, no, the intel is like, Mom, what you making for dinner?
I'm not even looking at the comments, and I people are thinking people are committing, and everything.
Yeah. But like, so like again, Vince, I liked the game plan. Even some of the stuff didn't work. The swing to Jeremiah Love that he dropped one got caught for -7. But what do they do on the next play after the -7? They went deep to Tyree, and you went down. You got in the red zone and you threw a play action interception. You know what I mean? Like, your next drive, you come out and run toss. You run the corner route to Jaden Thomas, I don't know, man. I liked what I saw from him. You ran some quick outs. I mean, you had some big plays. I liked what I saw. It was an 18-yard touchdown, I believe. But I just liked what I saw game plan wise. Now, here's the counter to that, Vince, and we'll talk specifically about certain position groups. But the problem is this offense has just been – you just have too much – just failure to execute. And look, executing at the end of the day is on the players. The players have to execute. But as you know, my belief on that but it's the coaches to make sure that you're getting the players in position to execute at a high level. That's your job.
Right.
And we just consistently see just like Blake Fisher getting a personal foul after a play, and you see Sam Hartman missing reads. Like, you're a 6-year senior. You shouldn't be making that many mistakes. You shouldn't be. You've got to have more faith in your guys. You're just still seeing, just drops and miss. There's just too much of that still going on to where, I like the game plan. That's a good step in the right direction. I thought you had, because what we said during the week, this is a big game for Jared Parker. And we said, we need to see if he can go head to head play calling wise against what we believe is to be a really good Pitt defensive coaching staff. And he did. And it wasn't just Notre Dame's players are better than their players. It was, you schemed them really well. And that's a positive, but you didn't get your players in a position to execute well enough to maximize what it been, because it should have been 58-7, honestly, at the end of the third quarter. Or I should say, the score should have still been 58-7, Vince, but it should have been 58-7 where you didn't need a punt return and a fumble thing and then a pick six. Like, you shouldn't have needed that to get to 58. That's what I'm encouraged by, is that you had a game plan against a pretty good Pitt defense where literally they didn't stop you but once.
Yeah.
You stopped yourself, because even on the one drive where they punted, Vince, what was it? Was it the fourth or fifth drive? I'm trying to find the one that they punted on.
They punted on
It
the
was,
fifth drive. The fifth drive.
Yeah. It
6
was
plays, 27 yards.
Yeah, that was when they had a 3rd and 10. It was just kind of like you kind of had some issue. Like you had some execution mistakes on that one, right? But like Pitt didn't really stop Notre Dame today. Notre Dame stopped themselves today, and that's part of your job as a coordinator. So I actually feel we saw a good step forward today with the offensive coach step. Look, I know how y'all are. Whenever they don't score, it's automatically Parker sucks. He can't call plays. I saw it in the chat. Again, Notre Dame wins 58-7. If you get into our game chat, you'd think they lost. I mean, it's like I'm getting somewhat frustrated by it. Like, we are a place that's going to be critical of when it's not good, we're going to call it out.
Yeah.
But I'm just getting kind of tired of just only bitching about things. And then because you don't like a guy or don't think a guy is doing a good job, which is fair, then every mistake is he's not doing a good job. I'm just telling y'all right now, I think that you're in this chat because you guys think we know football. This is a well-designed game plan and a well-called game plan that wasn't always executed effectively, which is also to me, on the staff. So this was a good step forward because they were going against a well-coached defensive staff. And I'm just telling you right now, if there were not some unforced errors by your 6th-year quarterback, we're having a different conversation about what this offense looked like today. Now, it's your job as a staff to get him to not make those mistakes.
Sure.
Correct? So I'll get there. But there's a lot of good takeaways from this. And as we said before, we said it last week, guys, this isn't hindsight, Vince. I said in the show this week, this is arguably the best coached defensive team Notre Dame will face in the last 4 weeks. As far as just good defensive coaching and scheme. Clemson has better players, but this is the best coach defense. And Notre Dame literally had a game plan where they got into Pitt territory all but once in their first 9 drives. That's a good thing. Now let's get them ready to execute better. That's the next thing.
Sure.
And my only really I didn't like that was I still just need to see some shots outside. That's my big thing. You got to be able to take some shots outside. But they found other ways to do it, right. But overall, I was pleased with the game plan. You scored 38 points.
38
against the team. Yeah. And you had limited possessions because you had so many, you had 2 special teams touchdowns. You had, so you didn't have a ton of possessions. I mean, the starting offense had 8 possessions, scored on 3 of them. Now, you could say 9 if you want to count the one with Angeli, but 8 possessions, scored on 3 of them. You had 2 interceptions in Pitt territory. You turned it over on downs in Pitt territory.
Right.
But now you've got to stop doing that because that's okay against Pitt. But if you do that against Ohio State, that gets you beat. If you do that against USC, that gets you beat. If you do that against Duke and Louisville, that gets you beat.
Especially early like that. They basically turned it over 3 straight times offensively, right? Interception, downs.
Right.
Like you can't do that and be effective.
Not against good teams.
Correct. Against Pitt, you can get away with it. But not against good teams. Not against the kind of teams that you need to be competing with for where this team should be.
Or even Clemson next week, Vince. At Clemson.
Good point.
You can't give that struggling team those kind of opportunities. You can't give them the short fields and let a struggling offense get a chance to get back in it. Like you just you can't do those things.
Correct.
Can't do those things.
Absolutely agree with that. So you want to talk about Hartman? You want to go to quarterback? Yeah.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Notre Dame has a lot of really talented athletes on offense. Like I was glad to see them trying to spread the ball around more today. That was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice to see. But yes.
Absolutely. Sam Hartman, you and I had many talks about Sam Hartman because, like I said, we stood outside for the first half. And so therefore we were standing outside for the first 3 drives. And it's I don't want to say you can speak more freely when you're outside and it's just the 2 of us, but you can kind of speak more freely. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you're not surrounded by the other media and, whatever, right? And you don't necessarily want everybody to hear your conversation.
And not just that, but it's also about being respectful for the media around
100%.
you. It's meant to be
they're trying to do a job
environment. Right.
They're trying to do a job. So we were essentially out on the porch by ourselves for the entire first half. And so we had a lot to talk about when it came to Sam Hartman. Now, Sam Hartman was not on his game today. That's the best way that I could put it. He was not on his game today. He was forcing some balls. That second interception, doing a triple coverage. Triple coverage.
He just decided before the snap that I'm going to throw it here.
Right.
And didn't read it at all afterwards.
Right.
Didn't read it at all.
Absolutely. So it was not a great performance by Sam Hartman. I mean, and I was anticipating going into this game, going up against, 90 plus ranked pass efficiency defense, that Sam Hartman was going to have a game. He's going to be able to throw the ball around, get those outside guys going, the whole deal. And that just really never materialized. I mean, look, what was his let's see. His line ended up being
stat line was pretty good.
Yeah, 72% completion percentage. He had 288 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it just, the problem is it's 2 picks and no touchdowns. I mean, that's
right.
That's the biggest thing. Now, in his defense, I will say this, a couple of long balls that he completed allowed the running back then to take the ball in pretty soon thereafter, right? Because he put him in a pretty good position, to get him down there. Just didn't have any touchdown passes, right?
Yeah.
And so, there were some good things that he did. Obviously, you don't throw for that many yards and have that kind of a completion percentage if you don't do some good things. But I expect more. I set the bar a little bit higher. I'm sorry. So he was forcing some
my
things.
thing is, Vince, there's a few balls that you're a 6-year senior, you can't make. You can't make the mistake on the second pick. The first pick, there's a lot wrong with that. I thought it was pass interference, but it wasn't blatant. But what did I say to you? You're not going to get pass interference when you make no effort to catch the football.
Right.
I'm sorry, you're just not. What now? Was it pass interference? Did it look like he kind of got his arm? I thought so. But when you don't make any effort to catch the football, they're not going to call pass interference unless it's blatant. I thought that Sam was expecting Rico to bend that route off. That you go back and look at it. He was expecting Rico to bend that route off. And that's kind of my frustration. Rico had a nice play today. My issue is I like Rico Flores. They're asking him to be something that you should not be asking him to do. And you're asking him to be a full-time starting receiver and do things that he's just not experienced enough to do. And I've got a lot of things to say about Chancey Stuckey that I'm just going to keep to myself for right now about why we're seeing this. Because your starting receivers today were Jaden Greathouse and Rico Flores, not Chris Tyree, not Jaden Thomas, not Tobias Merriweather. And those kids are good football players and need to play, no doubt. Yeah. And I'm all for using Rico. I thought he did a great job finding that open spot, getting into Sam's line of sight on the drag route that makes guys miss. Like, this is not an anti-Rico Flores conversation. I like Rico. He needs to be playing for you. But you're not doing him a service by putting him into some of these situations where he's got to make that kind of read. And so I didn't think Sam made a good decision because it was obvious to me that Rico wasn't bending that off. And so if you're going to throw that, you should probably throw it over top, but then you worry about, does the corner squeeze down? So it was just kind of bad all around. And then I think it was the next series, Vince, Sam comes out and, takes that sack on first down. And because what they were trying to do is they were trying to run a corner route to Rico, and he didn't run a very good corner. He telegraphed it. Guy jumps it. So Sam starts looking around. It's like, dude, you know where you're at in the field. If they jump
throw it away.
Throw it out of the end zone by Rico. I mean, you're a 6-year senior. You can't make that kind of mistake.
Right.
And then the other big one for me, Vince, was the 4th and 3. It's a great play call. Mitchell Evans beat his guy convincingly. And Sam's looking at him like, what's he waiting on?
Yeah.
And then he waits and waits and then kind of throws it late off his back foot and then completes the ball. It throws an incomplete pass. Like, the play call was there. You had the matchup you wanted. You had Mitchell Evans against either a linebacker or safety. He beats the guy easily. Yeah. Just throw that ball out there, let him run underneath it, and you got a big play, maybe even a touchdown, at least 20-plus yards. And it's like he's unwilling to pull the trigger. And he's going to have to – I mean, some of that's on him. It's like I don't know what it is, but like he's willing to take shots to Rico, but like nobody else. And like even the ball to Chris Tyree, Vince is kind of like,
it wasn't.
Why not throw it sooner? I mean, the ball went through the safety's hands.
Yes,
I mean, that should
great.
a more athletic safety picks that ball off.
Right. It was a great catch by Chris. I mean, it was a great catch. He caught
great catch.
He caught it on the second half of the ball as it was going down. And so, I mean, that's great hands to be able to catch that and bring it in and maintain control all the way to the ground, right? And so it was a great catch by him. But he was double covered and it should have been picked off.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm glad that it worked out the way it did.
I'm actually kind of okay with that to a degree because my whole thing is give your guys chances to make plays.
Yeah, for sure.
And then let them go make plays. Right. And he did that there.
He did.
You know, then like the pass to Tobias, I was glad that he finally threw the ball to Tobias. I mean, I was kind of joking with you. I was like, did Tobias do something that like to Sam, like, you know,
date his girlfriend?
Like did he hit on his girlfriend or something like that? Like what exactly is your issue and your unwillingness to even look in his direction? And then he finally did. And he smoked, and that was against one of their starting corners that Tobias did that.
Yes,
where he beat him. He beat him soundly. I mean, it wasn't even like. I mean, it wasn't close. It was against MJ Devonshire, who Ryan told you all last week is their best defensive player, right? And Tobias smoked him. He just spun him into the ground and smoked him and beat him on a post route. A better ball, and that's a touchdown. You know, throw it out there, and that's a touchdown. But hopefully that can be something that gets Sam back to being more comfortable throwing him the ball. It was off a play-action pass, and maybe people will shut up about the play-action stuff. But, you know, it's like he just aimed it. It's like, dude, let it go. You know, like if Tobias drops it, that's on Tobias, right? But you can't let that affect you. You got to let it rip. And I'm hoping that that'll be the thing that gets Sam going when it comes to, you know, look, Chris went out and made a play for you. Tobias made a play for you. Guys made plays for you today. Rico caught an over, made guys miss. He did his thing. Like, guys are making plays for you. Now, you just start doing your job. You start worrying about your job, and then let those guys go do that. And if they do that, you know, they'll be in a good position. They'll be in a really good position.
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, again, wasn't a great day, but it wasn't a terrible day either.
No.
You know,
I mean, we're ripping a guy who went 18 of 25 for 288 yards. You can't look, it's really just take back to the first pick I can actually somewhat live with. That was as much on Rico as it was Sam.
Sure.
It's when and guys, we've said this, you're going to give up picks. You're going to throw picks from time to time. And, you know, but you can't have that. And then the second pick, which was on you. And then the miss on the 4th and 3, which was on you. It's then taking the sack before the second pick. That's on you, right? Because it was a covered sack. It wasn't on your offense. You can't a quarterback like him can't make all 4 of those mistakes. I can live with one of them, and that's really my thing. And if Sam can clean some of that stuff up and just start playing like you actually have more faith in the guys around you.
Right.
Then they're going to be fine because that's really what it boils down to.
100% agree with that. He doesn't, and he has voiced that concern. Remember during fall camp, we were hearing this rumor that Sam hadn't found his guy yet, you know, and he hadn't found the guy he was most comfortable, like all that, whatever. That's a thing. Like, I mean, you can speak to this better than I can. You were a quarterback. You got to have confidence, I would imagine, in the guys you're throwing the football to in order to want to throw them the football. But at a certain point, you got to throw guys the football. I mean, you know, there's a fine line there, I guess, in my opinion. And again, you can speak to this because you were actually a quarterback. I wasn't. But there's a fine line between I've got a lot of faith in this guy. I'm going to throw him the football when it's a 50-50 or whatever. And I got a faith my guy's going to come down with it. And throwing a guy a football when he's wide open.
Right.
You know, you got to pull the trigger, man. You got to throw.
Yeah. And if the guy can't make plays, then the coach has got to not put him in there anymore.
And that's not on the quarterback. Like you threw to the open receiver. That's your job.
Right.
So
I did think he bounced back from that, though. I mean, a lot of his best balls came after the some of those mistakes. So he didn't let it snowball.
Yeah.
And into the second half and did some things like in the second half that I thought allowed them to kind of take that away. So I thought the receivers did a nice job today. It just overall, the skill talent today was really good, Vince. I thought a lot of different receivers making plays. You had, let's see, he completed balls to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, different players, 9, because you also had so Sam threw balls to 9 different players, and then 3 different ones caught balls with Angeli. But Sam, we hadn't seen that in a while. Him spreading the ball around like that. That's something we'd praised him a lot early in the year. So I did think he settled in.
I agree.
And I'm really hoping that like the balls that he hit to Tyree, to Tobias can be sort of a springboard to say, man, just read the offense, baby, and just let her rip, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yep. Agreed. I think I'm not, calling for somebody else to play quarterback or any of that nonsense. I think Sam Hartman's still your guy. He's still the guy that you're riding with.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing that. I mean, we're just critiquing this game. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Exactly. And I agree with you that he played much better as time moved on, as opposed to the first couple of drives. So, he came out a little flat. Let's call it. He came out a little flat with his reads and things like that. And he settled in, and I think he did fine moving forward after that. So just wish he would have hit 2 touchdowns, because he was the only reason I didn't hit a parlay, but whatever.
What?
Sam.
What was it?
My parlay, it was Sibo Flemister under 50.
Which you got that.
Estime, anytime touchdown score.
At 3.
It was the over of 45 points. It was as a whole game, obviously, and Notre Dame hit that by themselves. I believe it was Notre Dame on the money line, and then I forget what. And Sam Hartman 1.5 touchdowns. And Sam, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. What it is.
Because and part of that wasn't. So what was the one for Sam? It was how many touchdowns?
1.5 touchdowns. Yeah, 2 basically. He needed 2 touchdown passes.
Well, and then one of them got called back because of that penalty.
Would have had one. Yeah, would have had one.
That was a lame pick call. That was a really lame pick.
Barely touched him.
Really lame.
Barely. Not only did he barely touch him, but he barely altered the guy's track. I mean, he was already beat. Like, that defender was beat when he was touched by Mitchell Evans. Like, that was
a lame call, dude. Very lame call.
So they call that as an offensive pass interference, but they don't call the pass interference, against Rico. So it's like, man, that could have been 2 touchdowns right there.
Right.
Would have got me my money, baby.
Yeah. Let's hand out some game balls defensively, Vince.
Yeah.
Obviously you said or offensively. Let's do that. I'm gonna go Chris Tyree, just because the way he impacted the game. I thought I think if I could kind of go if you want, because I thought Chris had a big impact early, not as much in the second half. Audric, I thought, had some big runs and some big moments. So I'm going to kind of go give 2 game balls out. I thought Chris Tyree making that great play early, what he did just impacted the whole offense. It opened up the 3rd and 12 for Mitchell Evans. It opened up the 15-yard, 18-yard touchdown run for Audric. I just thought it had a big impact on the game. Really got the offense going. And I'm throwing him in there too, because he had the special teams touchdown, which was huge for all the people who say he can't make people miss and all that kind of stuff. I thought he did a pretty darn good job making people miss on that one. But I thought those 2 guys to me were the biggest impactful guys for Notre Dame today.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, but I'm going to pick a guy just to be different. I thought, even though Jadarian Price didn't get a bunch of opportunity, he had 6 touches for 35 yards. 6 carries for 35 yards. So that's a 5.8 yard average. But I just thought, even especially on his touchdown run, I mean, you could just see what this guy can do. Just breaking tackles. He's just so strong. He's got such a strong lower body. Yeah. And we saw what he can do, obviously, in the kick game. We see what he can do behind the quarterback, running the football. I love what this kid brings to the table. He only had the 1 score, but I just thought when he touched the ball, he was impactful. And so I'll give it to Jadarian Price.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's an interesting one. Yeah, that's definitely being contrarian. That's for sure. Big storyline for me, we've already addressed. I want to see it be I just want to see this be a springboard for this offense.
Sure.
Like the offense, and this is the thing, the offense is really close.
Mm-hmm.
It was really close to just taking off. And I'm hoping that what we saw the last 2 and a third quarter or whatever is just kind of the thing. Sam, start believing in your guys more. You guys got to start going making more plays. I mean, Tyree, that was a tough catch, man.
Yes, it was.
Tobias, his underthrow allowed that defender to get up on Tobias, but he held onto the ball, didn't let the guy knock it out of his hands. I mean, that's big. That's big, Vince. I mean, I'm actually watching the play right now. Like, one of the issues we have with Tobias is you've got to do a better job being stronger at the point of the ball. He makes the catch, guy comes through, he doesn't knock it out, he locks in with the guy coming on him, and and Mitchell Evans had a couple nice grabs, and your guys made some plays for you. Now, just go out there and start being you, and if you do that, I think he's going to have a chance to finish strong. Because I'm watching that play again, he aimed it, he just aimed it. It's like, dude, let her rip, have faith in your guys. You know what I mean? And he did, and he made him play. So
my takeaway is going to be similar to yours, but just a little bit more pointed. It's just, and I talked about this on the pregame show going into the game, it's just the offensive efficiency. And their first 3 drives were not efficient. Obviously, they had 2 interceptions and they turned it over on downs. But then after that, you had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 drives, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns and a field goal. Like, that's efficient. I'll take that. 2 punts in those drives. So I just want offensive efficiency. I don't necessarily need the fireworks and all that. I want an efficient offense. You're gonna score touchdowns when you get the ball, put points on the board. They finished the game like that. So basically from the second quarter on, the offense was incredibly efficient.
And Vince, I would even argue that from a pure efficiency standpoint, that was one of the strengths of what they did early.
It was early in the season? Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
No. Early in the game. They didn't finish drives off, but I actually thought they were efficient early until the finish of those drives. You get what I'm saying?
No,
I get what you're saying, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying that's what was so frustrating, because they were efficient, just like good play, pick. Go play, pick. It's just like,
they had like you're 118 yards in their first 3 drives. It's just all 3 ended in a turnover.
Exactly. That's where I'm kind of that's where I'm getting from. Yeah,
and
that's on
top of that, they had about 11 minutes of possession of the football that ended in 3 turnovers. You know what I mean? So they were actually efficient until the final play of each drive, which is a great springboard. And then they were efficient and finished off those drives. So
and look, Vince, Notre Dame finished the game at 8.2 yards per play.
Right.
And that includes taking a knee twice at the end. The most yards per game that Pitt had allowed all season was 5.47 against Virginia Tech. The most yards they held North Carolina to 5.41 with Drake May. And they had 373 yards. The most yards they'd allowed all year was 430 to Louisville, who had 5.60 yards per play. Notre Dame went for 535 and 8.2 per play. The UCLA last year against Pitt had 7.4. The highest they allowed last year in the regular season was 6.3 to Drake May. They didn't allow the highest yards allowed they had last year was 453 to UCLA. The year before, the highest yards per play was 6.95 from Virginia. Most yards they allowed was 521. 2020 is the last time that Pitt gave up more yards than what they gave today, and that was against Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. But they only had 6.46 yards per play. Highest they gave up that year was 6.89. Highest year before was 6.27. Highest before that was 7.19 to UCF. That was those really good UCF teams. And then in 2018, they gave up 7.10 to Clemson, the eventual national champions. So I'm just going back through the Pat Narduzzi era. The last time that Pitt gave up more than 8.2 yards per play was all the way back in 2017 when they gave up over 9 to Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph and Oklahoma State. That's the last time that they've done that. And so that's a long time. And again, when you do something to a team that's significant, I think like 7.3, I think something like that was the highest they had in the mean. It wasn't even close. There's not even close.
Yeah.
When you're doing things like that, Vince, like that's an impressive thing. And the only teams that have been like, better total yards wise, when you're talking about that and you're talking about total yards wise, and the teams that have had more total yards is like Clemson 2020 and Clemson 2018. Actually, they didn't. They were only 419. So, I mean, when you're doing things like that, Vince, it's you're doing some impressive things. And so that's there's things that got to, and that's the thing is like clean up clean up 3 plays. Like, I can live with the first pick. I really can. It's a kind of a well-defended ball. Rico didn't play it right. It just, okay, it sucks. It's part of football, right? You took a shot, didn't work out. It's the second pick and the miss on the 4th and 3 to Mitchell Evans that, like, just give me those 2. Not even all of them. Just give me those 2 better. And, I mean, we're talking about a completely different feeling about the OME. So, again, those things need to be discussed, but you just can't use those to ignore all the other good stuff that we saw for this game. You know what I mean?
But again, the good part was he rebounded, and I thought he played better down the stretch. You know, he didn't let that affect him, which you got to have a short memory when you're a quarterback. You know this. You've got to have a short memory when you're a QB, and he did. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I'll take it, but I needed to roll over to next week and the week after and the week after. Oh man, you can't have a start like they had offensively where you turn the ball over 3 times in 3 possessions. You just can't have it. You can't have it.
Yep, I agree. So, Vince, we don't normally talk about special teams on these, but I just want to briefly talk about it. You know, we've banged on Marty Biaggi a lot over the weeks, and understandably so. But special teams is last 6 quarters, the exception of that missed extra point, which I'm sorry, missed extra points to me are 100% on the kicking out. And I don't know who it was, if it was the snap.
Yeah, I didn't look at it yet. I didn't look at it.
But that's on the operation.
I mean, it got hooked. Like,
yes.
I mean,
something happened. That's on them. That's not a coaching thing to me. I mean, it's just not, unless it's a problem consistently.
It's an execution. It's an execution problem.
There was a couple mistakes from the game. You had to kick out of bounds. It's like, don't do that.
Right.
But the special teams are very impactful today. Very impactful. The coverage was pretty good. You had them starting at the 15-yard line one. You had the 37-yard kick return by Jadarian. You had the great 82-yard punt return by Chris Tyree, where that's what a punt returner has to do. You got to make somebody miss. Make somebody miss. He made 2 guys miss.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And then, like, you remember when he was like 15 downfield, I was like, dude, just make that. He's got to make one more guy miss. And he did. And then, boom, it was gone.
Oh, yeah. It's the other thing I like about, by the way, of watching the game out there on the patio, because I was literally jumping around like an idiot, you know, all excited as he was. That's me. Woo! You know, so it was a lot of fun out there, just you and me.
So anyway, special teams made an impact today. So props to Marty Biaggi. They've now had 2 special teams touchdowns in a row, and that's nothing to see. You say, well, yeah, but Chris Tyree made that guy miss. Well, that's kind of part of it, right? I mean, you're putting a guy back there that has to make somebody miss. I mean, this isn't the old 1980s wall punt return world. You don't do that anymore. You've got to make somebody miss. And I thought they did a good job. And they did a nice job too with, kind of coming at him a couple times. And then, of course, after that punt return, that guy shanked like the next 3 punts, which that's what you want to do. That's why you do what you do.
He was so worried about kicking it to 4. Are you kidding me? It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, and then Devin Ford had great coverage on that one punt. I mean, the guy muffed it, but as soon as he muffed it, Devin drilled him. He got down there. We needed to get down there, and then they out hustled Pitt to the ball. So props to Notre Dame on that one. And so I'm looking at it, Vince, and I'm just saying, you know what? We'll bang on you when you don't do a good job, but we'll praise you when you do a good job. And I think the last 2 games, Marty Biaggi's units, none of them, nobody's perfect, right? We talked about some of the mistakes, but overall, they just look like a better coached unit. The coverage units are better. The return games, Martin, to make an impact. Props, man. Just doing a better job. And now just keep building on it. Keep building on it.
Don't miss any more PATs, baby. Come on now.
Yep. So
bad news.
Yeah, but again, I'm not putting that on the.
I'm not either.
Yeah. Like, to me, if a center sails the ball over the quarterback's head, I'm not like, dang, freaking Rudolph, teach your guys how to no, dude, come on. Yeah. Nuh-uh. That's on you. That's on you.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
For sure. But overall, Vince, special teams, you're making an impact, man. That's all I'm asking you to do. Go make an impact. And they did. They did.
All right. So before we jump into the super chats, make sure that you hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, share with your family and friends. And you know what? Give us a 5-star review. Why not? I appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump into our super chats. Again, it's the post-game show. We get a lot of super chats, obviously. We get a lot of questions. If you want to get your question asked, you got to throw in a super chat in a show like this.
We don't do a traditional mailbag after the post-game show.
Right. So just make sure you get it in, and we'll answer it, and we'll have some fun with it, and just kind of go from there. So I think there's some good questions in here.
You ready to rock and roll, Vince?
Let's do
you ready
this
to
thing,
go,
Brian?
All right, let's do it.
All right,
going to go in order. So just so y'all know, we're just going to go in order.
Matt S., thanks for the super chat. How big is it for the Notre Dame secondary to have that kind of performance with Ivan Taylor and Cree Thomas in the house? Obviously, a recruiting question. So I'm.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, you're trying to land Ivan Taylor, who's a top 100 safety from Florida. Dad played in the NFL. Like, that's a guy you want, man. And so you kind of and it's not just this game, Vince. It's the last few games, where your safety position has been impactful. Not just playing good football, but impactful. And more than any of them, Xavier Watts is more of a fit to what Ivan Taylor's gonna be asked to do. He's a cover guy. Like, he's a guy that you want making plays in the pass game. So if he's watching Xavier Watts only coming down and like making tackles behind the line, that's fine. And Ivan Taylor will hit. He's a willing hitter, but like, you're wanting him to be a playmaker and run and pass. And so watching X make plays in all facets of the game is like, dude, that's you. Because what have I always said? Going all the way back to like when I talked about Alizé Mack and Notre Dame, and I remember Alizé explaining this to me. It was like, when I was at UCLA, they were on the whiteboard just drawing up how they're going to use me. When I went to Notre Dame, they just sat me down and put in Tyler Eifert film and said, that's how we're going to use you. And he's like, that mattered to me because like, you're telling me how you're going to use me, but I have no evidence that you're actually going to do that. And Notre Dame, how do I know they're going to use me that way? Because I watch film, and that's exactly how they use their tight ends, right? So you can, if you're Chris O'Leary and you're like, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face how I'm going to use you, but if you're not seeing it on Saturdays, it's just recruiting talk. But all Chris O'Leary's got to do now with Ivan Taylor is, sell him on all the different things, but just like, hey, Landon, how am I going to use you? Let's just sit down here for about 20 minutes. I'm going to play you Xavier Watts' highlight film from the last few games. I'm going to show you the NC State game. I'm going to show you the Duke game where he picked the pass off. I'm going to show you the entire USC game and the entire Pitt game. Oh, well, actually, I don't need to show you that because you were sitting right there watching it.
Right, exactly.
And that's huge, man, because now it's like, hey, it wasn't just a freak Kyle Hamilton, 5-star recruit and all that. No, this is a 3-star kid we got out of Nebraska that, that switched from receiver.
Yeah.
And look what we've done with him.
Yeah.
Right? Look what we've done with him. Look how we've developed him. He's a playmaker. Right now, I'm looking at the national standings, Vince, and
pretty sure he leads the country in interceptions.
Well, I don't know how Brylan Green from Liberty and Jeremiah Cooper from Iowa State or Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky did today, but coming into the game today, the leading guys in the country with interceptions had 5 each. So he's at least in that conversation, unless one of those guys had 2 as well.
Yeah.
So and he's done it, and it's like, again, it's not like he's had like one, like Benjamin Morrison last year had 6 picks, but like 5 of them came in 2 games.
Yeah.
Right, which is still excellent. And then they just kind of stopped throwing to him after that. But like, Xavier's had picks in 4 games now, I believe, correct? Because didn't he have one against NC State?
Sounds right.
Yeah, he jumped in front of that one at NC State, right? Had 1 against Duke, had 2 against USC, and now 2 against Pitt. So he's picked passes off in 4 different games. And that's where you want to be. So yeah, it was huge to be able to show that to those guys. And Jadon Blair's watching at home, Ethan Long's watching at home. You've got 25, you've got some 26 safeties, maybe there's a 24 guy you want to get back in on, and you can be like, hey man, look what you can do, right? So it's big. Yeah, it's real big. It's a good question, Grant, by the way, Matt.
Okay, Grant, thanks for the super chat. Let's do this again against Clemson next week. Noon kickoff. Go Irish. Must be official. All right.
Is it true that people are saying that Vegas has next week's game right now set as Clemson being a 1.5 favorite?
That's what I saw in the chat. Now, I don't know why they would lie to me.
Yeah. Like, that would be wild if that were true. Like, that would be absolutely wild. I just don't know where that could come from. So, well, somebody's pointing to like it's on the CBS Sports app or something. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know.
You automatically get 3 points as the home team. So
yeah, Matt Fortuna announced an hour ago that next week's game will be a noon kickoff on ABC. So you have a chance to blast Clemson on national television. So
I like it. I like the noon kickoff.
Very, very good.
Let's
very,
go.
very good. All right. So let's get to some more here.
All right. Matt S. Thank you for the super chat. I wonder if Southern Cal fans think Pitt beat themselves today.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, that's well done.
They also let Cal score 49 on them, and it should have been 50 if they kicked the extra point. So,
yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I don't mind it. You're going for the win. I don't want to go in overtime against K. You got to get what 3 yards to
3
win
yards.
it.
3 yards
that's
wins the game.
I'm okay with it. How am I going to beat Caleb Williams in overtime if I can't get 3 yards?
Yeah, exactly. So I have no problem with them going for it. Right. I didn't like the play call.
Even if you go to overtime, you're going to have to use 2-point conversions pretty quickly, right? By the second overtime. Right. You only got so many 2-point plays you have. Might as well use it now. And look, Brian Kelly did it last year against Alabama, and I liked the call then.
Yeah.
We're 3 yards away. We're going to either win it or lose it right here. And Justin Wilcox, it didn't work. And I don't know what they ran, Vince. I was following the play-by-play, so I don't know what actually they ran. So I may not like what they ran, but in just going forward, I have no problem with in that situation.
Right. Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. Slow start, strong finish. Yeah. Offensively, defense, they started fast. But offense, you're absolutely right, Tyler. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's the side that some people apparently only focus on. Like, ignore how good the defense was. Nothing about Chris Tyree 80-yard 2 touchdown, but I'm pissed about the offense. Like, well, okay. Raymond
Harton, thanks for the super chat. My 42-6 Notre Dame victory didn't age well, did it? LOL, go Irish. Who knew?
Yeah.
I mean, we were all kind of similar with our predictions. It was about high 30s to like 10 or 13. And that was a blowout. Like, that covered the 20.5, the 20.5 spread that was out there right around game time. And those all covered.
Yeah.
And they just said, yeah, hold my beer. We got this. Like, there was, I mean, it should have been blanked. It should have been 0. It should have been 58-0. But, we just wanted them to feel good about something going back on the plane to Pitt.
Yeah. And like you said, Vince, they scored on the backup defense. So it's not like they scored on the starting defense. And I'm not trying to take shots at the backups, but it's like,
but still,
I mean, that's
still a fact.
Right. You couldn't score. The closest you got was a field goal. That's the closest you got to doing anything in that situation. So, it's impressive.
The people in the chat are saying that Pitt players are posting what Pat Narduzzi said in the locker room.
Which was what?
Apparently something stupid.
What did he say? Because he says a lot of stupid things.
Well, that's fair. So people in the chat, put what they're posting, because I would love to know. But players posting what the head coach is saying in the locker room, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign for the way things are going.
Yeah. Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Agree.
Tyler Evans with another super chat. Nice interception by Christian Gray. And I would say that's putting it lightly.
Yeah. He played really well, Vince. I mean, he played really well in the game.
He was sticky. He was sticky in pass coverage. I mean, there was one where it looked like they were, he threw it and Gray was right there in his hip pocket. I just thought he did a really, really good job. There was another one where he read that reverse. Remember that one? He read the reverse, Brian. He was in perfect position to make that play.
Well, because he had to beat the guy, Vince.
Right,
like,
exactly.
The guy was trying to block him. And he had to get off the block. Did a really nice job with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Narduzzi said that they lost a lot of good players and they thought they replaced them with good ones, but they didn't. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's yeah, I don't believe that would shock me if he would say that. That would shock me if he said that.
Man. Anyway.
Yeah. That would I don't know that I buy that. I think that might, I mean, is it one player saying that? A lot of players saying that. So yeah, that would surprise me. Like, yeah. That would surprise me. Yeah. And again, I don't care what he said. Like, you handle that stuff behind behind closed doors as players.
Absolutely. So if he's responding to it on Twitter, that's also not a good look.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that because we don't know what's happening. We're just reading what other people are saying, so we'll move on from that. But yeah, that's not a good look.
Josh Phillips, thanks for the super chat. No Morrison, no Hart, no problem. Great win.
Isn't that the craziest thing, Vince, when you're just like, they didn't have their 2 stud corners and it just like it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. They were still able to go out there and just lock them down. And then like the one catch they had on those guys was just like a great ball against Christian Gray.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, great catch too. But yeah, they were really good. They were really good. Let's get to some more.
Tyler Evans, thank you again. I don't think Pat Narduzzi liked Kenny in the game and taking the knee.
I mean, okay. I don't know if he did or didn't, but my whole thing is, Tyler, it's like if that bothers this is my issue with Pat Narduzzi. Because it honestly, Vince, I don't know if that's what had him upset, but like, would it shock you with the way that he responds to?
He'll find something petty to be mad about, which I guarantee
especially when it comes to Notre Dame, man. Like, it's just like
I guarantee Marcus Freeman was like, "Hey, we got to make sure that we get Kenny in to take a knee just to tick off Narduzzi."
Yeah.
Like,
look, if he wanted to do that, he would have put him in instead of Steve Angeli. If he wanted to do something to get him, but I don't know what he said. I don't know. I don't like, because like, remember the one time people were talking about what Marcus Freeman said after the game, and then we went back and watched and was like, yeah, that's not really what he said or how he said it or the context in which he said it. So I don't know if I want to necessarily go in too far into it, but yeah,
I mean, if he's upset, then he's upset, and it wouldn't surprise me. But
he always gets upset and says really dumb things.
What I'm saying.
Still, I thought we were playing some good players. Apparently, we didn't. I don't know. That surprises me. That surprises me.
Trash. Oh, my favorite. Trash. Thanks for the super chat. Great win. Always fun to clobber former teammates. This win incredibly humiliates Louisville. Waiting on Jurkovic tweet. Love the last touchdown. Love IB. There's a lot in there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of love, man, and that's how it should be after a game like this.
And I don't think
how it should be.
They're not trying to humiliate former Notre Dame players like that. I don't think that was on the agenda.
No, especially from the players.
They were just trying to beat another team.
Because the only one that they cared about, the only guy that the only guy they would have cared about trying to humiliate because of all the talking he's done is Phil, and I don't think Phil played.
I don't think he did either. And I mean, again, maybe from a player standpoint, but every single coach that's on the staff wasn't even there when Phil was there. Like, I just feel like that's an old, tired thing.
Well, I think the issue that people might have is the running off of the mouth
from last year,
over the last couple of years. Last year, this summer, the summer before, it's like, bro, you need it. Like the first time Phil went off on Notre Dame, I was like, bro, I get it. You're venting. You got screwed over in a lot of ways, and fans don't even know half of what Phil went through at Notre Dame with different situations. And so it's like, I get it. You need to get some stuff off your chest. All good. I get it. But like, okay, by the 5th time you're doing that, it's like, it's time to move on, dude. Like, so I was glad he didn't tweet anything out this week. Just
me too. Me too. Cause I just didn't want to deal with that nonsense. Just the whole thing, just didn't want to deal with it.
And Vince, we got a super chat from Iden Banami. Let's go ahead and get that one.
All right. Thank you for the super chat. Rare. Blowout USC. Bye week. Blowout a team we should. LOL. 3 great weekends. Love seeing Marcus Freeman get fired up and show some emotion out there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was emotion. Yeah. He was pissed. There was many times where he was not a happy camper.
A lot in this game, and I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of liked it. Yeah. I did because it goes back to what we've talked about, Vince. It's not okay. Great, we're dominating a team that we should kick the mess out of. Like, that's not the standard, fellas. You know what I mean? Like, you're up big and he's getting ticked off, and you're like, yeah, because he's not looking at the scoreboard. He's looking at what you're doing on the field, and you're not supposed to be doing that.
And he expects
the point. It's 37-0.
Yeah,
it's not the point. What if this happens when it's we're trying to tie a game and win a game? And that's the thing that people don't as a coach. You don't let things like that slide because you're up 44-0, because you need to always let it be. That's never okay.
Right.
It's never okay to have that kind of penalty. It's never okay to not hit your gap. It's never okay to not make the read. It's never okay to do this. because yes, it didn't matter this time, but if I make you think that it's okay, then it will matter next time. So I actually kind of dug it. I liked it. This is another one for my guy. Yep.
Yeah, another one. So
He's got
thank you so much.
two more. So two more.
Oh,
I'll get to these next couple after this. He's fired up. Iden's fired up about this one. Yeah.
Surprised Narduzzi didn't make a comment this week about us flipping Minchie. Also love the intel on the board about him as well. Great to hear. I actually enjoyed reading that one as well.
Thank you,
by the way.
Appreciate that.
No problem. Another one. Thank you so much. LOL. I said it 2 weeks ago after USC in a super chat. Keep feeding Tyree. Only good things happen. Also, so much hate for Parker. Jeez, let him live a bit.
Right. I mean, apparently 535 yards and 38 points.
It's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Yep.
And then finally, another one. Thank you so much. Hope Ryan does a show next week as Blippi.
I don't know what that means.
Well, Blippi is a children's character, like it's a YouTube channel. You need to look it up. Blippi is.
I don't have children. That would just be weird.
Well, I don't think everybody's going to check your YouTube browser history, but you should look up Blippi and then think about Ryan in that outfit, and this becomes hilarious. By the way. So
I'm just going to look it up on is it
like
spelled
images?
Just yeah. Oh wow, yeah, that'd be terrible. I would not be okay with that. I would not be okay with that. Okay, let's just move on.
After the show, you just need to watch like 10-second clip too.
No, I'm good. I've seen enough. Yeah, seen enough. Let's roll. Back to football.
Great. I love it. All right, and just ND Gal, thank you so much for the super chat. Rock chalk.
I like the number. You get it? 10 and 2.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Predicting the future. And
you just think she's showing a couple extra pennies our way?
Like,
Is that what you thought, it's like,
tax. Cool, all right, that's cool. Rock
10 and 2, baby.
Wolfpack, and maybe Golden Bears. Well, they didn't pull it off, unfortunately. But X for the Thorpe Award, Audric for the Doak, Golden for the Broyles. Did I forget anyone? Thank you for all you do, Vince and Brian. Thank you.
JD Bertrand for the Warfel,
being there.
Right?
Yeah,
he's a finalist for the Warfel Award, so that'd be a big one. Yeah,
absolutely.
I can dig those. Did Mitchell Evans do a lot today? Because you think of the Mackey since Bowers
he didn't
is out
do terrible
for the rest of the year.
Because
5 catches for 66 yards. So
he was the leading receiver.
Good.
He's the leading receiver for the team.
5 for 66.
Number of catches. So
So I mean,
did we get an update on him by chance, or have you heard anything? Okay, all right,
no, but he's now got 29 catches for over 400 yards. So, and Brock Bowers is going to be playing for a while. So, but no, I can dig those.
Yeah,
I can dig those. I mean, X for the Thorpe Award for Xavier Watts is the one that you could maybe definitely, and then Broyles with the. I don't know that Notre Dame's going to be ranked high enough for that, but he should absolutely be in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got back-to-back. Got a
crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Deal with.
And some of it was deserved, and some
absolutely.
of it wasn't. Yeah. Kevin Horton with a super sticker and then a super chat. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, BD. All 3 phases played well. More RPOs. They
actually ran.
Yeah. There was a decent amount today, actually. More than we have seen in the recent past. So I think it was part of the game plan for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you hit one to Tyree early you hit one to Rico Flores and went for 12. There's a couple of them. Now, again, I'd like to see more, but we saw some. Yeah, we saw some. It's good.
Alan Watson, thanks for the super chat. Great coverage as usual, guys. What are the chances that we see our old friend BK in a bowl this year?
It's possible. I mean, a lot has to happen between now and then, but it's certainly. Look, I'll tell you this: if LSU's in the top 8 or 9, and Notre Dame's in the top 8 or 9, and you've got a chance to have an at-large bid, and what we've always said that they care the most about?
Ratings, baby, money.
That would be the most highest viewed non-playoff game that there would be. I mean, that would be a really heavily watched game. So if you want to see that, both of them went out, I could see it happening. I could certainly see it happening.
The 2 highest viewed potential matchups would be Alabama LSU or Notre Dame LSU. And it's because Notre Dame fans would watch either game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and those would be the highest rated games. I'm telling you.
Yep.
And that might even trump the college football playoff semifinals, to be honest with you.
Depending on who's in it, but I would say probably not. You say LSU Notre Dame, and did you say Bama Notre Dame?
No, I said Bama LSU because there's still connections there. Because you not only get the Bama LSU fan base, but you'd also get the Notre Dame fan base watching that one because of the Reese Kelly connection. Right. That's what I think. So you'd get ratings either way there.
Yeah. So hold on, I'm confused. So you're saying, what are you saying? I guess, are you saying the LSU Bama game is gonna?
I'm saying there's two matchups that would get you major ratings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Notre Dame versus Bama or Notre Dame versus LSU. I got you. Yeah,
No. Notre Dame versus LSU, or Bama versus LSU
in a bowl game.
Because yeah.
We're going to see that in the regular season in a couple weeks, so you're not going to get that in a bowl game.
Well, that's true. So I didn't think
about
that. I was just thinking about.
That's why I was confused because no, he doesn't mean in a bowl game because.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I did. Your point though, Alabama Notre Dame would also be that way because of this for the same reason.
That is correct. I agree with.
They're going to play next weekend in Tuscaloosa, so we will see the ratings for that one.
Hopefully, it's not at noon.
It's going to be huge because Vince. It's probably going to be the 3:30 CBS game. That's probably what it'll be. Yeah. If it's not a night game. But here's the thing, Vince, is you're also playing for the SEC West title is on the line.
Right,
now Ole Miss is also in that conversation, but like the loser of this is probably eliminated because they all have one conference loss. And they've kind of beat each other up. Bama beat Ole Miss beat LSU, and so LSU, they're all sitting there with one loss and actually Bama has no losses right now, correct? In conference.
In conference. Yeah.
Right. So it's like Bama beat Ole Miss beat LSU. If LSU beats Bama, it's going to get a little wonky. You know what I mean? But the loser of this game is going to have a much tougher time. Right. I mean, that's because then it's like now you're getting into like tiebreakers and all this other kind of stuff. But it's going to be fascinating. And then, I still think Ole Miss loses again. So it's going to end up coming down. I think the winner of this game between LSU and Bama is going to get in because I still think Ole Miss loses. Bama and LSU, other than this game, don't have like super, super hard finishes, in my opinion. Ole Miss to me has a little bit of a tougher stretch after this game. So LSU after Bama plays Florida at home, they're not very good. Georgia State at home and Texas A&M at home. Those, I mean, they could lose any of them, but I just don't see them losing any of them.
Yeah,
and then Alabama,
Kentucky on
at
the road.
Kentucky, right?
Yeah,
and then, Chattanooga, and then at Auburn. Yeah, I mean, they should win all those. Ole Miss, on the other hand, to me, like they've got Vandy today, which I think last I saw they were winning. They got A&M, and then they play at Georgia, Louisiana Monroe, and at Mississippi State. So like they're probably going to lose to Georgia, right? That's their second loss in conference. So. And then, of course, if Bama wins out, they're in the playoff, in my opinion. You'll have two SEC teams in the playoff. Yeah. Well, no, you may only have one because, like, I still think, too, because if Georgia loses the SEC title game, they don't have a resume to get in for this year. I still think they get in because they're the back-to-back champs. I don't think they deserve to get in because you got to beat somebody. And I've always said you're the champs till somebody beats you. Well, then somebody would have beat them. And then than you take away that, they don't have a playoff resume. Of course, it all depends on what other teams have done and all that. But yeah, Alabama would absolutely have a playoff resume if they went out. And honestly, LSU's not far off from having one if they went out because they're going to have some really impressive wins on their a road win over a really good Missouri team. You'll have a win at Alabama. You'd have a win over Georgia. Like, if LSU wins out, they're going to have a really strong case to be a 2-loss playoff team. I'm just being honest. They will. It just depends on what happens in other places. So we'll see if they're able to do it. Got a super sticker from John B. Thanks, John. Appreciate you very, very, very much, man.
Zach Martin with a super chat. Thank you. Best defense since 2012. Cornerback depth is wild. Gray is on fire.
Right. Well, and like if what we were told about Cam Hart turns out to be accurate, and I believe that it is, it says a lot about where you are depth-wise that you didn't feel the need to have to put him back out there.
Right.
Because in past years, it's like if you're starting a cornerback gets hurt and he can play again, you got to play him again unless the game's just a blowout.
Clemson 2018, for example, like in the playoff.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's
he
like,
didn't have that go-to.
Yeah, is Cam better than the two guys that are out there? Of course. Cam's been their best corner this year. But it's like, are those guys good enough to say, hey, we're good. You stay healthy. We need you for next week. Because Christian and Jaden got this.
Right.
And like I watched the touchdown that they threw on Chance Tucker. He was actually kind of there. I mean, he got his hand right over the ball. Guy made a great play on the ball. I mean, guy made a great play on the ball. It was a really good throw and a really good play on the ball. He could have been maybe a step closer, but it wasn't like he got smoked on the play. You know what I mean? Like, that's just an experience thing. So, yeah, it was good. And here we go from 410 JP. Clap it up for Chris Tyree. Yeah, Chris was money today. He was money today.
Yes, he was.
Got another one from her, and is it me, or does it look like Sam Hartman lost his confidence after Central Michigan? I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Vince, because I know my answer on this.
I mean, I don't think he lost confidence in himself. I think he lost some confidence maybe in his wide receivers. So if that's what we're talking about, then yes, I do think he's
any
lost
form. Yeah, answer it any way you want to.
Yeah, that I think he's lost that kind of confidence. There's no way he's lost confidence in himself. I do not believe that personally. But I also believe that he played better in the last three quarters of he didn't play the fourth quarter. The second and the third quarter of the Notre Dame game today, I thought he played much better, and he was going through his reads. He's making throws. He was doing all the things that he needed to do. So I don't think he ever lost confidence in himself. I think he lost confidence in the guys around him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, and now that's partly on him, but yes,
and that's fair too. That is fair too.
Yep.
Connor Patton, my guy, what's going on? Thanks for the super chat. Quote, I'm used to winning, unquote. That was Will Shipley on why he chose Clemson over Notre Dame. At the time, I get it.
Yeah.
So
hasn't worked out great for him.
No.
You know.
But
now, I don't remember him saying that, but I'm sure he did. But since 2021, he has not won the way that Clemson did before. It's not because of him, though.
No,
I mean, Will Shipley's a good football player.
Very good football player.
Yeah.
And if he was in a Notre Dame uniform, everybody would love him. I mean, I just think he plays hard. He's a good leader, all of those things. But he's not. And so, I'm okay if he's not winning.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so bitter and spiteful.
Always.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. Here we go. I love this one from Nathan.
Nathan says, first of all, thanks for the super chat. Was Coach Marcus Freeman pissed all game? Did he know that they won? LOL.
That's smart, though. You're playing a team that sucks. Let's be real now. We said it all week. This is not a very good football team. So you got to make sure that your players don't let up. That was our fear. How do you keep them from not letting up? You do not want to deal with me if you don't do what you need to do this week.
Exactly.
Guys, I can be your best friend this week or your biggest nightmare. Right. And it's going to be up to you. Do you go play to the standard we've set before you? Are you going to bring it? Or are you going to roll the ball out and think that because Pitt sucks, you're just going to smack them? No. I'm going to hold you to the ultimate standard this week. And if you don't live up to it, you do not want to deal with me right now. That's what Lou Holtz made a living of, is stuff like that. Like, it wasn't just the stuff that we looked at and said, hey, the stuff he said publicly, but it's like they would talk about how that's what it was in practice.
Right.
And that's the big thing for me.
I just feel like that's how you build a program and you have standards within that program is, look, the bar's always right here, guys. It doesn't matter what the scoreboard is. We still expect you to execute and to play to the standard. And if you're not playing to the standard, it's not going to end well for you. You know what I mean? And I mean that in a football way, in a football sense. But like, this is the standard, and it doesn't matter what the score is. That's how you build a championship level program, and that's what Marcus Freeman is building. We can have.
I think that shows growth as a coach. It's like,
yes,
how do you get your, like, what did you say to me before the game? We were walking up to the stadium, and a Pitt fan was like, "We're gonna shock the world," and I was like, "That's so adorable." Like, they have no chance.
Right.
And you looked at me and said, and it was 100% accurate. Well, we thought the same thing against Stanford last year, right? But here, and then you said, but this is a different team. That was your next comment, but this is a different team. But the point is, how do you not let that happen again?
Right.
You don't let them get comfortable just because you had a big win. Like, guys, I'm going to be on you. This is the standard. It's not about Pitt. I don't care that they suck.
Right.
I'm holding you to this standard, and if you don't live up to it, you're not going to like me very much. And
I love
that.
I just love it.
Yeah.
Again, it's like our standard is here, guys. The golden standard to go. That this is where we want to be, and you have to be that way.
Right.
Every play.
Right.
Every day,
I don't care who the opponent is, how bad they are, all of it.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you know what? Here's the other thing. And I know this is a little bit of a tangent, and we didn't talk about it a bunch, but he held himself and his coaching staff to that standard the entire game. Didn't matter that the backups were in. It didn't matter that the 2s or the 3s even were in. We're still going to play. We're still going to play. That's a great point,
Vince. You can't hold him to that Stanford, put your backups in and say, okay, guys, we're just going to hand the ball off and get out of here. You can't. That's not the Notre Dame standard. You let them play.
Right. Yes.
Like, this was a great coaching job by Marcus Freeman this exact. And Nathan's being funny, right? Like, he's being funny. But it sets up a great opportunity to point out, like, this is growth in a coach. Because sometimes you get that young coach and he's like, these guys suck and we're just going to have some fun this week and go put some. No, it's like, no. This is the games that I got to really make sure, because it should be easy for guys to get up for the. This is what Lou Holtz always said. Guys, I don't have to tell them a thing leading into the Miami game. They know. They're smart kids. They know what's at stake. They know the way they have to prepare. They know the way they have to perform. So I don't need to get on them this week. They know it's the week of Navy or the week of a bad Pitt team where, they also know, because if they know Miami's good, they also know Pitt sucks, right? They're not stupid. These are smart kids. They're Notre Dame kids, right? They watch the film. They know Pitt stinks. So what do I got to do to make sure these kids are fired up and ready to play? And he pushed those buttons. Now, again, were there some execution issues at the time? No, yes. But Notre Dame came out. They out hustled. They out hit. They out fought. I mean, they just out coached. They just outdid everything. And it wasn't just, well, you won because you're better players, but Pitt played harder than you. No, they were faster than Pitt. They were more physical than Pitt. They executed better than Pitt. They had better game plans than Pitt. They finished better than Pitt. Like, all of it. Mm-hmm. And, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about that. And now you get in the film room as a coach and you clean up the mistakes that you made.
Yes.
And you say, okay, let's get better. And that's where you're at.
Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. Thank you, Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah.
I think Tyler had some money on the game, just saying.
Yeah.
and he just gave some to us. So thank you, Tyler.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Let manager one.
It's manager. Yep, I think so.
Okay, we're going to go with it. Thanks for the super chat from our friends up north. Thank you so much. The defensive speed rallying to the ball the last couple of games has been elite, playing really fast.
Yeah. And he's nailing it. And this is why the tackling has gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, yeah, like the one missed tackle we had was from Cam Hart. And Vince, it's almost like he jumped the route so well that he knew he was going to get there too soon. So he kind of holds up and then and it's like, but that had kind of messed up his rhythm. But
yeah, he was already kind of past him and
right. But then immediately somebody else is there to tackle the guy.
It was Clarence Lewis, I believe.
I think you're right. And so, like, that's how you need to be. That's how you need to be.
Yeah, it was great. Matt M., thank you for the super chat. I know it was garbage time, but did Angeli impress you any? I know I saw something there. Maybe. I know I saw this is funny. I know I saw something there. Maybe.
I mean,
that's great.
I mean, did he do a nice job? Yeah, he did. I mean, the ball to Braylon James is a nice ball. The ball to Cooper Flanagan was gorgeous for the touchdown. And yeah, he impressed me. He's a good backup quarterback. It's a good backup quarterback. He's got some skill. There's some things you can work with. I still question, is he a guy that you can put a team on your shoulders and say, hey, let's go win a championship? That's my big thing. But no, he showed me some things. I mean, look, the only way you'd be able to look at Steve Angeli today and say, hey, I don't know, I don't see it, is if you're just like, you don't think he can play and you just stick with it. I mean, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, he did some nice things. They had a couple balls he missed, but so did Sam Hartman. So's every quarterback. But the couple throws he made, man, were really impressive balls. Like I went back and watched, Vince, was a slant route to Braylon James, and he kind of worked outside and then kind of came in, and Steve like held it. And as soon as Braylon broke in, he hit him right in the stomach on the slant, which is exactly where when you have an in-breaking slant route with a guy coming behind, that's exactly where that nose right on him in the stomach. If you lead him out in front, he can break it up. You throw it behind, guy can get a hand around it. You hit him right in the stomach. Braylon did a nice job shielding it, and then he ran for the first down. And then the ball to Cooper Flannery. He's rolling to his left, throws it over top, perfect touchdown, boom. So, yeah, I liked what I saw from Steve today. I just think sometimes people overreact to what backup quarterbacks do. And what has my stance always been about backup quarterbacks, Vince? Doesn't really matter a whole lot what you do because it's a different pressure situation. It's just completely different. But absolutely. Steve can't control that. He can't control when he goes in.
Right.
He can only control how he plays when he goes in. And you know what? He had 3 drives, and he led the team to touchdowns on all 3 drives. Bro, tip of the cap to you, buddy. Great job. Great job.
Nathan Milton, thanks for the super chat. What was more surprising, Notre Dame putting 50 up on Pitt or OU BKing the bed today against Kansas? Vince Bryan, great work. Ryan as Blippy equals epic.
It's neither, honestly, but probably I'd go with Kansas because Jalen Daniels didn't play. I just didn't know if Kansas could beat Oklahoma with their backup quarterback. And, you call him backup quarterback, but he's been playing most of the year now. So, and he started for him a lot last year and the year before. But that's probably the one that was the most surprising of the two. But I'm not overly surprised. And we've seen Kansas do this before. I mean, Kansas is a good football team. They're kind of up and down, and the Texas game just kind of got out of hand because – I mean, you thought you were going to have Jalen Daniels, and then he tweaked his back during that morning of the game.
Yeah.
And that'll get you. But, this is a team that lost to Oklahoma State last week only by a touchdown. Oklahoma State's pretty hot. This is also a team that blew UCF out the week before that, 51-22. This is a team that beat Illinois convincingly, beat BYU convincingly. I mean, so, they're a 6-2 football team. And they did it at home. And this isn't the first time they've beaten Oklahoma, right? Or no, they lost Oklahoma last year. So
they haven't beaten Oklahoma since 1997.
Yeah. I thought they beat them last year, but they didn't. But yeah, I mean, they beat Texas recently. They've had some good wins. This is a quality football. Lance Leopold's doing a great job there. And the Pitt, if Notre Dame would have put up over 50 on Pitt offensively, that would have surprised me. Because that just doesn't happen a whole lot. But scoring over 50 if you'd have told me before the game, I picked 34-6 saying the defense was going to give the offense some short fields. If you'd have told me they're going to get 2 special teams touchdowns and a defensive touchdown, I'd have added 21 points to my 34 and getting 55 or they 55. Actually 20 points from those units. Because, I just said, hey, okay, 54-6. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So good call.
Yeah, so
that would have been exactly because I picked 38. Yeah. So add 20,
and they scored
baby.
45 on them the last time they played, and that was a much better Pitt team than the one they played today.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Flagstead.
Okay, can I say something real quick? Ooh. I'm sorry. Can we now in the future against Pitt stop with the whole Pitt always plays Notre Dame tough thing? Can we stop with that?
Seriously.
Because the last 2 times Notre Dame and Pitt have played, Notre Dame has outscored them 103-10. Right? 3 of the last 4 games have been blowouts. They blew them out in 15. They blew them out in 20. They blew them out in 23. The only game that was close was 2018.
Right.
The 3 of the last 4 games from these 2 teams have not been competitive. And it was 42-17, and Pitt scored 2 touchdowns in the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. And their last touchdown was on a fumble return against Notre Dame's backup quarterback, Brandon Wimbush. Remember that? Ewan Price had that. We talked about that during the show. But I'm done with it's kind of like the whole – Notre Dame always struggles the week after Navy. Guys, that hasn't been a thing in years. And finally, people stop talking about it.
And Notre Dame always struggles in green uniforms. That's my personal favorite.
Well, they do lose. They have lost the last few, but they against good teams. But
one, right?
But against good teams.
Oh.
But it's they blew out Florida State in green jerseys. It's okay, guys. But yeah, the whole Pitt always plays Notre Dame tough thing. It's that's not a thing anymore. Right. That's not 3 of the last 4 games have been close. This isn't 2012. This isn't the 1990s or the 1980s. When Notre Dame is good, this is what they should be doing to Pitt. And so, again, did I do the math correctly, Vince? 58 plus 45, that's 103, right? Did I? Yes. So 103-10. The last 2 games between Notre Dame and Pitt have been in 2020 and 2023. The combined score is 103-10. Enough with the Pitt always plays Notre Dame tough thing. That's dead. That's been murdered by Notre Dame, it's done deal. It's no longer
Agreed.
a thing. So we can move on from that.
Daniel Flagstad, thanks for the super chat. Great seeing you at the tailgate today. This is exactly the game that we were talking about. Offense is improved. D is still great. Go Irish. And thanks for everything that you guys do.
Can you imagine what these next 3 games are going to look like if the defense keeps doing this and the offense just cleans up a couple things? Because
yeah.
Yep. That's going to be fun.
Oh, and that's
And Daniel, it was great meeting you today, by the way. This was so many awesome conversations today. But yes, go ahead, Vince. What you're going to say?
I was just going to say my confidence in Notre Dame, if the defense keeps playing the way it is through the roof.
They won't lose a game. If the defense keeps doing what it's doing, they won't lose a game. Now, they may have some ugly wins, but they won't lose.
They won't lose. They will not lose moving forward. And so I love where this defense is at. And, again, my big takeaway from the defense, this is them. And so keep going, boys. You got something to prove. Let's go do it.
Right. And that's the thing that's scary is if the offense starts to just clean up a couple things from the last couple games, just a couple things, they're the last 2 games close. They're like this close, Vince.
Yeah.
To really taking off. They're this close. And that's the thing is look, guys, we can be pissed about Ohio State and we can be pissed about Duke and Louisville without allowing that to then be that doesn't have anything to do with what you did against USC and Pitt. Right. Like this, but I'm still pat about a little. Okay, that's fine. You can be pissed, but that shouldn't have anything to do with how you evaluate what you saw today.
Right.
And what you saw against USC. And my whole thing is they are so close. It just clean up 4 or 5 little things. And if they do that, this team is going to go on a roll down the stretch, Vince. And it's going to be fun to watch. Now they got to do it, right? But yeah, it's going to be fun. I hope we see
Frank G. Thank you for the super chat. It is crazy that a few years ago, CB was a weak point. Corner was a weak point, and now Notre Dame plays without its top 2 starting corners, and nothing changes. Shout out to Coach Mickens. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, it's why recruiting and development is so important.
Yep.
He's not just bringing in these 5-star kids and turning them into studs, right? He's taking talented players and coaching the heck out of them.
Yep.
Right? And that's what makes Mike Mickens elite. He has a great eye for talent, and he coaches these kids up. He trusts them, and they trust him. Yep. And my favorite thing about Mike Mickens is Benjamin Morrison gave up a touchdown last year. And who said it? Who took the blame for it? Mike Mickens.
Yeah.
He said it publicly. I mean, he said it privately. He's, Marcus Freeman said after the game, he told Benjamin to do something that he should not have told him to do. He told him do this, and it was and he owned it. And kids love that kind of stuff, right? Sure. But there's a level of trust. When Coach Mick tells me to do this, I trust him, so I'm going to do it. And there's no second guessing him because you're like, okay, why should I listen to you? All right, let me give you some names. You know what I mean? Right. Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, yeah. All right. This guy knows the stuff, but the kids don't question those things because they trust him. And he showed trust in them. And props to Al Golden for, adjusting the coverages the way he did today, to play to his players' strengths. But man, Mike Mickens is just look, dude, if he's not D coordinator next year, you flat out need to make him the highest paid cornerbacks coach in college football. And if they don't, then Notre Dame's not serious about being a championship program.
Right.
Unless he leaves for he wants to be a D coordinator that bad. But if Mike Mickens is not the highest paid defensive cornerbacks coach in college football next year, and I don't count Nick Saban, okay, so he's a different deal. He doesn't count, right? Because he's always going to be the highest paid cornerbacks coach on the planet.
You know what I mean? As well, it's kind of cheating. I mean, kind of.
Yep. So I'm, that's where I'm at on that one. So he deserves all the praise. And again, coaches don't take bums and turn them into studs, right?
That's also true.
The All-Americans I coached, the All-Conference kids I coached, I promise you, Vince, not one of them sucked, and I'm just that good of a coach.
Right.
God gave them ability, and it was my job to bring the most out of it. And that's what Mike Mickens is a great talent evaluator, but he's also doing, because he has talented kids, but there's no position where you see a better job of getting the most out of it than that job. And here's the thing. Got a lot of issues with Chris O'Leary as a cornerbacks coach. But in this rise, these last few weeks, two coaches we've been very hard on deserve a little special mention for the way their kids are playing on Saturdays.
Sure.
Chris O'Leary and Al Washington. Their two groups have been playing really good football the last few weeks. Right? Louisville was a rough game for everyone. Right? But Duke, the safeties played great against Duke. Safeties played great against USC. Safeties played great today. Right? Mm-hmm. Props. You deserve credit for that. And same with Al Washington. His D-line's really been good all year, and every chance they turn him loose, it's like they dominate. So, we've given those two coaches a tough time in the past, and it was deserved. And now, we always said, Vince, if you deserve to be criticized, we'll criticize you. If you deserve to be praised, we'll praise you. Mm-hmm. And right now, Chris O'Leary and Al Washington also. This isn't the Al Gold, Mike Mickens show only. And they're playing great defense in spite of Al Washington and Chris O'Leary. That ain't it. This is a well-coached football team right now. And the safeties had every chance in the world to just kind of put their heads down and be on their feelings after the Ohio State game, because they had two chances for the safeties position to go out there and win that game, put that game away, and they failed twice on that last series. DJ on the drop pick and Ramon Henderson. And you know what they've done since that? Outside of 3 or 4 plays against Louisville, they've played great football the last month since then. That's good coaching. That shows character from the players. And they deserve praise for it, man. Yep. Flat out deserve praise for it.
Tyler Evans, did Al Golden coach himself back in the NFL or a head coaching job?
I think so. I mean, again, they got 3 games left. Got 3 games left. He's got to go do some things. Yeah. But I mean, so far it's hard for me to say no. I mean,
and it just depends on what Al Golden wants. Does he want to be a head coach, someplace in college? Does he want to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL? I don't think he makes the jump to a head coach in the NFL. I don't think that's in the cards per se. I think a defensive coordinator.
I think the question from Tyler is referring to a college head coaching job.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. It just depends. Is that what he wants? I don't know what Al Golden wants to do. I really don't.
Right. I mean, maybe he just loves it in South Bend and wants. I mean, I don't know. But let's just say this: I don't know what he wants to do, but he'll have, in my opinion. I don't know about NFL D coordinator because I just don't know enough about the NFL to know what they're looking for, what jobs come open. But if there's a lot of head coaching jobs coming open this offseason, especially if there's some in the Northeast, like if BC decides they want to make a move, I mean, honestly, that's one of the first calls that I'm making if I'm Boston.
For sure.
I don't know if that's what Al Golden would want to do, but I'm definitely making that call. So anyway, good one, Tyler. Appreciate you, man. So, Vince, that's going to do it, buddy. We get to celebrate this game. Huge win for Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
And, last 2 weeks, guys, we can say whatever we want, and you can be Notre Dame the last 2 weeks has outscored their opponents 106-27.
4-1. Yeah. 5-1. Sorry.
Yep.
5-1 ratio.
That's pretty good against
what?
USC and Pitt.
You've got all 3 phases contributing to that point total, and that's what
that's a good
teams do.
Oh, hey, here's a quick note that Notre Dame tweeted out during the show, during the game, Vince. I believe the tweet is there's 4 players in Notre Dame history that have scored a touchdown on rushing, receiving, kick return, and punt return. Tim Brown, Rocket Ismail, Julius Jones, and now Chris Tyree.
That's great company.
That's pretty cool.
That's a great company to be in.
Yeah.
Great company to be in. Cool and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun watching Chris Tyree the rest of this year and hopefully all next year as well. So Chris Tyree is one of my favorites, man. He's one of my favorites. He has been since he got here. And I love the fact that maybe, just maybe, they're going to start using him to his potential.
We'll see.
I
still feel like he's a 3-4-2-3 touch guy, and then they just call it a day. You know what I mean?
When they watch the film back and they see how teams are playing him and opening up everything else, come on, guys, use number 4. Let's go.
Yep.
Anyway,
no doubt.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Postgame Show and the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and share with your family and friends. Give us a 5-star review. And, keep on listening, guys. It was so much fun seeing people at the tailgate and, seeing people as we're walking into the stadium and, hey, it's the IB guys like that. It's just fun, man. Like, really enjoy. I love football season. And today was just a perfect fall day for football, man. It was just this whole weekend for football has been amazing. So,
yep.
Hey, it ended the right way. So for Brian, I'm Vince, and we will be talking about this 7-2 Notre Dame football team again tomorrow night in a pond for the review. So make sure you guys check it out. We will be back once we break down the film, and I'm looking forward to it. It's always more fun to break down the film after a W, especially one like that. So for Brian, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.